Welcome everyone to Legion Gaming. I'm your host Donnie, and as always I'm joined by my co-host Deucy.
Hello everyone.
Deucy, how are you this fanciful Saturday afternoon?
I am hot. It has been some good weather recently, and
It's been reasonably toasty, I would say.
Yeah.
Toasty for our area, I will say that, because
That's
it's
true.
Scorching painfulness everywhere else.
Well, just last weekend we were up north a little, and it was like 97 at one point.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the Bay Area.
But I am happy to be back and recording another great episode, another series.
Yeah, we have episode 68, which is, again, I always say it's a milestone because we're still continuing this whole gimmick we got going here.
Every new episode, we're breaking our own record.
We really are. It's really fantastic. It's something like we're just hitting and breaking our goals every single time. And we're doing a very special series this time. It's the Crash Bandicoot series. Now, we won't cover every single game because there's a lot, especially after Crash 3 Warped and CTR. Like, there's a whole block that we won't cover, which is basically the PS2 era to the 360 era.
Yeah, I don't even count those because I don't remember how, like, all of them that are listed.
Yeah, and I played a handful of them in the early years, so to speak. Like, I played Wrath of Cortex, I think it was called, on PS2, and that was okay, but it really felt like once they changed developers, it just wasn't the same Crash for me, even though from what I saw, the reviews they were like mediocre to solid.
They're like, here's another Crash.
Yeah. So for our purposes, today we're going to cover the core games, which is really Crash 1, 2, and 3, and its sequel that took like decades to come out, Crash 4.
Yeah.
And Crash Team Racing, and of course the remasters for both, which is the Crash Insane Trilogy and Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. So it's a lot of fun stuff because we have kind of like a reboot episode. We have a lot of like sort of remakes, remasters, even though these aren't considered remakes apparently.
Oh, wait, really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
They're sort of remasters, but they look like remakes.
It's
very weird.
I was gonna throw this out there to back my point about Metal Gear Delta, because this is a whole new engine because they didn't have the originals from PlayStation 1, and yet everybody calls them a remaster because everything is down almost exactly the way it was on PS1.
And also what's funny is that we'll get to it when we talk about it, but they actually coined the term, the developers of the Insane Trilogy coined the term Remastered Plus because it's a remaster, but they had to add stuff to it.
Yeah.
So just like we mentioned in our episode, it just gets very muddy. There's definitions, but they're all very loose. So I think it'll be a fun episode because we're talking about the PS1 games, sort of their origins and development, and we're also talking about all the remasters and all the great stuff. And this series just was really great to revisit. Like, I forgot how much I loved this series when I grew up. I
will be giving my perspective from the point of view of the Insane Trilogy because that's actually where I've played 2 and 3 for the first time.
Oh, you hadn't played them before?
So I think I played a demo of 3 because I remember the Tiger level on the Great Wall of China. But other than that, I didn't play them back on the original hardware. And now I realize I should track those down because I don't have them on the original.
They're worth it. 2 and 3 are pretty cheap. And, I played them. I mean, we'll get to it too.
Yeah.
But when I played them, I was like, these hold up pretty well for how old they are. And, considering they're really old platformers. So I think it'll be a really great episode. Our friend Nick, though, I forgot to mention, he sent us his list for the top N64 games, his personal top 10. Which, if you haven't listened to that episode, it's a couple episodes back. We had Vito on. It was a really great time.
It's on episode 64.
Episode 64. Very easy to find.
Yes.
If you're 64.
Easy to remember.
Yeah. So, Nick, he sent us a list here. This is not ordered. This is just the order he sent it to me in. So, first on his list is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1. Then he has GoldenEye, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario 64, Super Smash Bros., and Mario Kart 64.
He had the majority of his list was rare games, which I think is how our list ended up being too.
It was because we had Conker on there thanks to Vito. I think it was right. Which I was like, I probably would have put. I think Banjo lost out to that, right?
I put Banjo on my list.
Yeah.
And then we might have mentioned Diddy Kong Racing, definitely GoldenEye and Perfect Dark.
For sure. He had a lot of the hits that we had on there too. But
I'm surprised.
It's interesting.
I'm surprised he put Tony Hawk 1 on there. I mean, maybe he didn't have it on PlayStation, but I always heard that was the better version.
That's what I assume. The PS1 version is definitely better just because it's less compromised and also made for it. But the N64, and if all you had was an N64,
it still worked.
It was
perfect.
still great. The music it sucks, but the game is still there and it looks great and it's really fun. So it's a really fun list. He also sent some remaster wish lists, which I thought was fun.
Oh, the wish list, yeah.
Yeah, he sent for his remaster wish list or remake wish list, however you want to spin this. It's Bloodborne, Donald Duck Quackshot, which I thought was a really great choice. that one.
That goes along with my Disney afternoon wish.
It does. That should be added on there and remade. Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 1 and 4, which I agree. I think those definitely need to be
I would
Nemesis
say
1 needs a remake.
I would say 1 needs to be brought up like Delta just was.
Yeah.
But 4, I feel like, still holds up pretty well.
Well,
And
4 just needs a remaster to be able to be playable on modern systems.
That's true.
That's the only thing it really
it's trapped on
needs.
PS3, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Like, it's literally PS3. No PC port, no nothing else.
Yeah.
So there's rumors of the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection Volume 2 coming at some point. Konami has just said nothing about it, and there's rumors that I shouldn't say rumors. There's hope that Metal Gear 4 will be on there. I hope it's the case because I haven't played it since 2008.
What would be on that one? Like Peace Walker 4, 5.
I would probably guess the Acid games on PSP.
That's right.
There's a whole lot.
Yeah. Rising, maybe Rising.
Metal Gear Rising probably, and I would hope the Metal Gear Game Boy Color game.
Oh yeah,
because that one is. I don't think you play that anywhere, right? I don't think that's even. Is that on Game Boy Switch?
No,
right? Yeah.
They could have snuck that into the Volume 1 collection.
They should have.
It really fits with those.
I wish they would have. Yeah. He also had Code Veronica on his list, which is what you and I had.
Welcome to the club.
He had Snatcher, which is one of Hideo Kojima's, might be his first game, one of his earliest games. I think that was on the MSX or something.
Oh, wow.
And Brave Fencer Musashi, which I was very surprised because that's, I wouldn't say it's an obscure PS1 game, but it's definitely one that's not as known as others.
I only remember the name because you had it or played it.
I have it, yeah.
Yeah,
And it also came with a demo for, I think, Parasite Eve or Final Fantasy VIII.
And it was just, fun to say.
Yeah. It's a weird game. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's an adventure game, but it almost feels like a Super NES adventure game, but on a PS1.
Oh.
It's kind of cool. I really like that one. But it also got me thinking how I wish that Xenogears would get remastered. And the other one I wanted to mention was Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks.
Yes.
I think you had a couple, right? So we had like a short wish list. And of course, it's like there's stuff that we always wish would be get remastered.
Sometimes, yeah. And like we mentioned in the last episode, there are things we probably have always talked about and then forgot when it came time to mention them.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's just we could make a list of 100 wishes if we wanted to. Yeah. But Deucy, what have you been playing lately?
Well, I got weirdly back into Mass Effect, the trilogy, was it Legendary Edition?
Legendary Edition?
Yeah.
Legendary Collection, something like that.
Also, we should have mentioned in our last episode.
Yeah, which I think obviously precipitated you getting back into it. You're like, hey, wait a minute.
This exists.
Yeah.
And this time I realized, I want to play as the female version of Shepard, because I know Randy mentioned that one time. He played through once as the male and then once as the female because the voice actress is supposed to be better than the male one was.
I think it's Jennifer Hale.
It's Jennifer Hale.
Yeah, right.
So far I haven't noticed much of a difference other than I mean, she is portraying what I am choosing is my options. And I also wanted to go more Renegade in this one because I always seem to go Paragon or Good in these games.
That's funny because I always go Renegade and then because you do either or, right? Like I usually say in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to go do a Renegade playthrough or a Paragon. Yeah.
But I tried. And the problem with this game is that the Renegade options are just so ridiculous that no human should be doing these things unless you are a truly evil person.
Yeah.
I'm like, there are some things where sure, I'm butting heads with the main council of the Citadel or whatever. I'm butting heads with them, and that sometimes gets me Renegade points. Ooh. But there are other times where I'm talking to a completely innocent civilian, and it's basically my option is to yell at them or hit them or something. And I'm like, why do I want to do that?
I was going to point out one of the more, I guess I'll call it shocking ones, but it's when you're dealing with the journalist.
Oh, yeah.
And she's talking about whatever, trying to get a quote from you for whatever the situation was. I think it was in Mass Effect 1. And one of the Paragon options is just punch her. Just punch her in the face, leave. I have no comment, and you're not going to have a comment either. I was like, wow, that's a little excessive there.
Yeah.
You know? You punched a woman because you didn't want to talk about whatever.
What I do like about this one, though, is that you can build up the points for both sides of things. Some games, I think it was, Infamous or some other games early on in this development cycle where they were trying to do a good side and a bad side. They always had it as sort of a tug of war so that if you got a bunch of good points and you unlocked stuff, the second you started doing bad, it took away from that.
Yeah, they basically wanted you to lean into one or the other.
Yeah.
They wanted you to commit.
But this one I like because you get to do both at the same time, and then you can unlock both dialogue options, or sometimes you go into it and you only have the good option or you only have the bad option. But at least it gives you the choice to be sort of in the middle where you're what is that? The Punisher, you're an anti-hero and stuff like that. You have that option still if you want. You don't have to be totally Emperor Palpatine on one side or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm still looking forward to playing that and trying to get to the second and third games, because I did recently restart on the Legendary Edition. This was like in 2022, I think my save file said. And then I got completely sidetracked, and that's starting to happen again.
Oh damn! Yeah, because when the Legendary Collection came out, obviously I was very excited because I think we both bought it probably instantly where it was. I definitely did. I played through all three back to back to back, and it was one of those awesome experiences because Mass Effect 1, at the time it didn't feel dated necessarily, but there's still some clunkiness to it.
Yeah.
And they did just enough in the remaster to make it feel as good as 2. And I shouldn't say as good as 2, but close to 2.
It's a little easier to get through if you want to do 2 and 3.
Exactly, yeah. And then 2 and 3 just feel just flawless to me. Like 2 is still one of my favorite games ever. So I hope you get to go through them because, when I played them originally, we were playing them staggered out. Like I think one was 2007. I think the next one was like 2010 or something.
9 maybe?
Something like that.
Yeah.
They're all like 2-3 years apart.
Yeah.
So when I get to play them back to back to back, like you really recognize how much your choices affect through each game. And of course, that's what is the most amazing part of Mass Effect is like how those choices carry out through the entire series. And we really don't see that anymore. Yeah.
I was also trying to change up my starting character because usually I go with the tech option, but also I'm good with like pistols and snipers or something like that. This time I was like, I'm going to go with the biotics, which is like the magic of the game.
Yeah.
And then I got to some decisions already where they're like, oh, your engineering isn't high enough. I'm like, God damn it. This is why I like being tech.
Yeah. I usually go towards like the tech mage magic side or biotics, but I always play biotics especially in 2 and 3 because obviously the biotic combos are just so badass to pull off. And, when you have like the singularity where it just pulls everyone in and you send out the one that like explodes. It's just so satisfying. It's really amazing.
It gets rid of them quick. But like I said, I'm starting to get a little sidetracked because I have been playing the games we're going to talk about today, and I'm actually really close to the end of Crash Bandicoot 1. So I really want to try to finish that for like the first time ever. Mm-hmm. And then on the Switch side of things, I went in and I finished Metroid Fusion for the second time ever. And you beat me.
Yeah.
In time and, well, not in percentage of stuff collected, but also my percentage was so low and I couldn't figure out like when I had the opportunity to go and collect more because I don't think I only had about 56% and that seemed to be enough. I finished the game.
Yeah, well, and you and I were talking about it because I think with Metroid Fusion structure, I felt the same way where it's like, beyond the fact that I normally play with low items anyway because I just am not thorough enough apparently. It seems more difficult in Fusion because like you said, like there's certain points where you're locked to the next part of the section, like you have to go forward, so you don't have much time to backtrack.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I feel like we have to look up where sort of the point of no return is, where you can still freely, explore and get 100% items.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't really figure that out, and I think, and by the time I finished, I had like 42%. I think I texted you.
Yeah.
Which sounds about right for me. I had 49% when I finished Prime, so I'm in that 40 to 50% range.
That's not even the bare minimum because there are those speed runs that are like 14%.
Yeah.
But still, that's like the bare minimum for you.
And also, like in most cases, I would not, if I see an item, I'm not going to avoid it either, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if there's an E-Tank, I'm not going to say like, oh, I don't need that, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to go grab it on the way to where I'm going.
But it's weird because like in Fusion, there are a lot of spots where you see an item and you can't get to it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I need this thing later.
Those are different. Those I won't really go back for unless I, backtrack or have to backtrack.
Unless the game takes you back there, which sometimes it doesn't, and then you forget all about it.
Yeah. But it's a fantastic game. I was playing through it a little bit again before we did our episode, or it was like a month ago. Mm-hmm. And that's, like I said, I really love that game. It's not as fun as Fusion, or excuse me, as Zero Mission for me, but still really, really solid. It's just a fantastic game overall for Game Boy.
Yeah, surprisingly, I immediately wanted to go back in and try to run it a little quicker because everything seemed easier this time. I only got stuck at that one SAX chase.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest showstopper in the game is anytime you have to deal with the SAX.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty manageable.
I didn't even get stuck at Ridley this time because I did your strategy of charge shots.
Yeah, and he's just a total pushover with charge shots. It's like the easiest Ridley I think I fought in Metroid.
I know. I was like, why is this a thing? Like, my missiles suck.
Yeah. And before I figured that out, I was like mashing like you wouldn't believe because you have 100-something missiles. I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And then I looked it up and someone suggested charge shots and I was like, okay, one try.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Yep.
mash B for an hour and a half and not kill him or something. So it's really weird that they did that, but whatever. You know, it was an easy fight. And even the last boss was easy with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. For I've been playing Deucy, I've been playing through a lot.
You've been finishing a lot.
I've been finishing a lot, continuing my little streak. So when we last recorded, Shinobi, Art of Vengeance, and Metal Gear Solid Delta were just coming out, and I think I just started them when we recorded last time, and I finished both since then. So Shinobi, Art of Vengeance is it's definitely, well, I say top 10 because there's already so much that's been good this year, but it's going to be hard for me not to put that on my top 10 because that game, it's made by Lizard Cube, who developed Streets of Rage 4, which I've talked about how much I love that series.
That's why the art style looks amazing.
Yeah, very much like Streets of Rage 4 style, except even more, at a grander scale. And it's great because the game is still split in levels, but each level is a Metroidvania level. So you go through kind of linearly, and you can go back after you get abilities and find the extra items, the Oboro coins, which unlocks more stuff in the shop. It's a weird twist on a Metroidvania. I feel like it's close to like Portrait of a Ruin, right? Where you go in different paintings.
Oh, yeah.
So think of it that way, where it's like you have your levels, and each one is its own Metroidvania section. It's just fantastic. I didn't really know it was going to go that route. I just thought it was going to be like a 2D game.
I think more Metroidvanias, since they're flooding the market with them, I think more should go that route. Because
I agree.
I can't seem to get into a lot of them because they're just so expansive.
Well, they're expansive, and sometimes like it's just not paced in a way that is easy to explore and progress.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like chunks, and it's like you're still technically going from point A to point B, but there's a lot of detours and a lot of hidden stuff you could find. Like there's these elite challenges where you fight like these sort of spawning enemies, like a little bit of a gauntlet, and you get like an amulet or a passive perk if you find all three in the level. There's like secret chests which give you money and other stuff in there. So there's a lot to discover, and I think that's great because you go back and there's a percentage and you can go through 100% everything. So I love this game. It was really fantastic. I played right through it. And in the midst of that, I was also playing Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta in the middle of that, and I just finished that last night, and I really love Metal Gear Solid 3. I have a couple issues with the remake. Like sometimes it felt like, like I tried to go semi-passive and stealth as much as possible. I still did pretty well. Like I only killed 24 people throughout the whole game.
You had a lot of alerts though on the little.
Well, that's the thing. I was putting down is because there would be certain alerts where I would trigger it. Like even in old Metal Gear would happen where it's like you try to go up and like CQC somebody.
Oh yeah.
And instead you smack them in the back of the head and you're alerted. So there are certain sections where like I just could not get through unalerted. So I was like, whatever, I'll just run through. And that's what happened. So unfortunately I had like 39 out of like, it could have been way worse. I still got like one of the higher ranks. I got Jaguar, but they presented me with Cat because I saved like 30 times or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But God, like that's, I haven't replayed that in a really long time. And the remake, it's pretty damn close to what the original game was as far as 1-to-1. And it's fun for me to go through certain areas. I'm like, holy crap, like I remember this layout. I remember doing this. And a lot of the strategies work. And then, geez, like that I say like the last third of the game, like where you're sort of in that chase with the Shadow God after you plant the charges, is just some of the most like exhilarating stuff still 20 plus years later, all leading up to the fight with the boss and the whole ending and the twist. It was just like a totally phenomenal experience that was really great to revisit again. So I hope you get to it someday. I know it's like in your queue at some point, but it's a really great remake. I really, really enjoy it. Like, my flaws for it were just really small. Like it's just stuff that's mostly on me where it's like, oh, I guess I can't do that,
I almost got it the first day, but I knew I was going to be like out of town all weekend.
Yeah.
Didn't have time for it. And then we had already planned this Crash episode. So I was like, oh, I got like 4 or so games to get through there, just to test out. I have work, and I was like, I legit have not had a second to play Metal Gear.
Well, and also,
anything
and
like
Metal Gear's, and exactly, like Metal Gear's not a game where you could play for like half an hour and get through. It's like you want to experience the story.
That's a cutscene.
Cutscenes, yeah, exactly, right. So it's like you need to set like an hour or two minimum to get a session in. Even if you play like a certain section, because that's why it's like. Sometimes I would get like a long block of time. Other times it's like, geez, it's getting late or whatever. And I would just play like an hour just to get through a certain section.
Yeah.
But, it was only like, I think it was like 13, 14 hours, which felt just right. I mean, that's probably what it took me in the other one.
You said 12 hours, 10 minutes.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. 12, 10 exact, I think it was. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty reasonable time. I think I don't know if cutscenes count, but it doesn't matter. It was a great time.
No, they must count because I can't imagine there's 12 hours worth of actual gameplay.
I can't tell.
In any Metal Gear game.
No. Maybe it's like, 8 hours of cutscenes, 4 hours of game.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ratio is. Yeah. But phenomenal remake. I really, really enjoyed my time with it. And then the last game that I managed to finish this week was Donkey Kong Bonanza. I finally got through that. I think it was like 601, 604 out of 777 bananas. It just got to a point in that game where I really love it, but the best thing about the game is also kind of the worst thing, where it's like you're just mashing R to discover where like the hidden stuff is, like where the fossils are, where the bananas are.
Yeah, with the little radar.
Yeah, with the radar thing. And then you got to mash through it, right?
Yep.
Or use different abilities. So I loved it, but that's also like, my Switch save was like 30 something hours in. It's like, that's a lot to do for mashing and, mashing R and mashing through the rubble and whatnot. The final world, though, I won't spoil it here because unfortunately, it seems like you seem to have accidentally happened upon it, or at least some bits of it.
Yeah, I don't have the final world spoiled for me, but I have the boss spoiled.
Okay, the final boss. Yeah. So the final world and boss are really great. So at that point, I was kind of ready to be done with it. Like I was still collecting everything I could, but I wasn't trying to do like 100% through every level because there's a lot of levels in this game. There's like 16 different worlds or something like that. It's quite huge. It's a lot longer than I expected.
That's kind of like if you think about Mario 64 had 15 different levels with like 7 stars each, and it was just a little more condensed all within the castle, but that is still a lot of game. And then DK was built right alongside like the likes of Mario Odyssey, so you'd have to expect that we want to give you every different type of biome possible.
Yeah, and it works really well. Like the game is still like 9 out of 10, right? But it's like,
is there any? I hope this isn't a spoiler, but is there any like factory type level?
No, unfortunately. Well, there kind of is, but it's not as distinct as it would be in Donkey Kong Country, I will say.
I was going to say, those were some of my favorites in Country and like Country 3.
Yeah, there are some industrial areas like that, and there's some really wild ones. Like there's one called the Feast layer where it's like you're constructing a burger, and there's like the water is fried oil or something like that. There's a lot of really funny and charming worlds in here, so that's also part of the fun too, is just discovering that.
Hey kids, you want to play Burger Time?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah, but it took me, like I said, it was like 30 something hours, and I was texting you. It's funny because Donkey Kong 64 to get 100, where it was 102, 104, took me about 34, 35 hours because it's still in my save file.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny to me that like I got all the collectibles, all 3200, and as tedious as it was, it still technically was a shorter game than DK Bonanza because I'm nowhere near 100% in DK Bonanza. Like there's still 100 something bananas I have to find. There's still who knows how many fossils I have to discover. I don't know what you get for getting 100%. I imagine not much.
I mean,
maybe like a costume or something.
No, I bet it'll be something pretty interesting because it was. I mean, I didn't even get everything in Mario Odyssey, and they had some good after game stuff.
Oh, that's right. Because you told me that the N64
there was
gimmick,
right? There was a whole N64 level and a skin for Mario and everything. I was like, this is cool. So they've got to have something extra for getting everything.
I have to look it up. I don't know if I'm going to go for 100% just because again, there's just like so much stuff that we've been playing, and podcasts or not. Like I'm just happy to have finished it, but it's a really fantastic game. Like that is the reason to own a Switch 2 for me. Like I think that is the killer app, as they used to say. All right, Deucy. Well, I think now is a better time than ever to talk about some Crash Bandicoot games. All right, Deucy, we are here at our main events. We are talking Crash Bandicoot, a series that was first released way back on September 9th, 1996, which, as of this recording, is really just a few days off the anniversary of this. It's going to be the 29th anniversary at this point.
Wow, nice.
I didn't even consider that. I think really this episode came up because you and I were talking about it, and you put the Insane Trilogy on your list. I was like, damn.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really fantastic series I would like to revisit. Why don't we just do an episode on it? Yeah. So the first game was developed by Naughty Dog. It was published by Sony Computer Entertainment. The story here is pretty silly. There's a mad scientist named Dr. Neo Cortex. He wants to take over the world by turning wildlife into these anthropomorphic soldiers with his Evolvo Ray, because that's a very 90s thing to say for a weapon.
Yep.
Yeah, and Crash is a Bandicoot who was chosen to be the general of Cortex's army. And I guess, Crash meets Tawna, who's a female Bandicoot, and he ends up sort of getting attached to her. And she ends up getting captured, and then Crash is sort of like the vigilante who has to save his new girlfriends and does everything he can to stop Cortex from taking over the world.
Did he breaks out of the Evolvo Ray or whatever?
Yeah, and he crash lands on an island.
Was it like mid mid-evolving because he's not like fully formed into a super soldier. He doesn't talk.
Yeah.
He's just sort of wacky.
He might have just got like zapped kind of thing, you know, like to where he just warped his mind a little bit maybe.
To where he's at least anthropomorphic, but he's not like fully formed.
Yeah, and he got some pants on in the midst of all this. Yeah, so they were, I guess he was at some point in the process if he got pants at least.
Yep.
He's walking around with them, yeah.
And cool shoes.
And cool shoes, yeah. And a cool attitude.
Yes.
Above all else. So the origins of Crash, this actually kind of dates back to 1994 when MCA Inc., which is this massive media publisher. They published everything from like music, TV. They established Universal Interactive Studios. Their whole intent there was to start developing games, and they really specifically noted the 3DO because that was coming out in 94. I think it was released 93, 94. I can't recall when the 3DO actually released. But that was, as bad as that thing was, that was the sort of first foray into 32-bit gaming.
Was the 3DO the one where like any company could make it? Sony, Panasonic.
Yeah, so
anybody?
That's why they had a Panasonic one. I forgot the other brands, and there's like a something gold 3DO. I forgot. There's 2 or 3 different 3DOs.
It was like a Magnavox, I think.
Magnavox, yeah, that was one. But they're all expensive. I want to say they're all like $500 to start out.
Oh yeah,
go up to like $700 depending on the system, which. You know, that's a lot of money nowadays, but imagine that in 1994. That's a lot of freaking money.
But I could see, like, if these production companies had deals with the home, you know, VCR and whatever else, TV market, that they would also want to have deals with this home video game console market.
And that's really what it was. They wanted to sort of expand their portfolio in a sense, right? Expand their business into this. So that's why they specifically went out to establish the studios developed for 32-bit because... You know, 93, 94, the SNES and Genesis are, I mean, hitting their stride, really. At this point, there's like, the Sonic games are coming out. I think there was like Sonic 3 at this time, Donkey Kong Country, the Final Fantasy 2 and 3 were out, which are, you know, 4 and 6.
Yeah.
So, you know, 16-bit gaming was still firmly in its foothold, but people were definitely looking forward to what was coming after that.
Super Metroid was 94.
Super Metroid was 94, yeah, exactly. So there was a lot going on in this time. The executive VP of MCA really said that he wanted to develop these games for the sophisticated 32-bit systems that were on the horizon. I don't even know at this point, like I know the relationship between Sony and Nintendo had broken apart, so the PS1 was probably on its way to being developed, if not being engineered during this time.
Yeah.
Saturn was about to come out in 94, and that was 32-bit because Sega wanted to probably get ahead of everyone else. So this was a really interesting time that, you know, the people were looking forward to the next generation of gaming, even though we were really just formally established in the current gen, which was 16 bits. In parallel with this, Naughty Dog was a developer. They were founded by Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin, and they were showing off Way of the Warrior, which... Are you familiar with this game, Deucy?
Maybe. So
I vividly remember seeing this game at our mall, our little mall in our town, at Electronics Boutique. It was in the window, and it was a Mortal Kombat ripoff. That's why it caught my eye. Because they had it playing in the window, like it was a 3DO setup.
I think I've seen this on... There's a YouTube channel that says The Worst Fighting Games. And
it was on there.
It's on there, yeah.
It's on Matt McMuscles, exactly. Yeah. So you probably have seen it passively there, but it's just a really bad Mortal Kombat clone that was very much something that was happening at the time. Like there was just a dime a dozen, right? And Way of the Word wasn't very good. So Naughty Dog was at Consumer Electronics Show, CES, to try to find a publisher for this. And that's when Universal Interactive actually outbid Crystal Dynamics, who made like Gex and a bit later Tomb Raider and all those other games. Like they're pretty famous too, right? So they lost the bid to Way of the Warrior. And they also offered...
Dodged a bullet.
I would say dodged a bullet. That's a great way of putting it. That's a hell of a bullet to dodge, too. It's really weird because you consider what Naughty Dog turned into, and you're like, wow, it started with Way of the Warrior.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So what Universal offered Naughty Dog to kind of, you know, sway them from Crystal Dynamics is that they said, we'll publish Way of the Warrior, but we'll also give you, we'll allow you to make 3 games with total creative freedom, which wasn't very typical at the time. I'm sure a lot of publishers were more like, look, we're funding your development. You're going to make what we think you should make because we're trying to grow our business and this is what we want you to do kind of thing.
Which at that point would have probably been like, okay, you did a Mortal Kombat clone, now do a Street Fighter clone.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah.
So it's actually, it is great that they gave them sort of like carte blanche to do whatever they wanted.
And it worked out because their inspiration for Crash, and you could see it very easily, it was Donkey Kong Country because, again, it was coming out in 94. So they thought that they wanted to make the next game sort of influenced by Donkey Kong Country. And I think that's a great sort of influence because that is a fantastic game. And what they were kind of throwing ideas around. Some of the hypotheticals is that they'd be looking at the back of the character. So the game sort of jokingly was called Sonic's Ass Game because the thought was, I guess, like, it'd be a Sonic platformer, but you're looking at the back of the character the whole time.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 3D. So they were looking at what system to potentially develop this on, and they ruled out 3DO, the Jaguar, 32X, and Saturn. They just felt like these weren't going to they weren't going to be allowed to make the game they wanted to make, and also, a lot of those systems had poor sales, and it was just. Also, I guess there was some like clunky dev kits on top of that.
Oh, for sure. I know Saturn had a weird one, and also like Sega already had enough mascots. They had one really good one, and then all of the ones that weren't making it.
Yeah.
And so why try for another one that's probably going to be like a 3D platformer, cartoony sort of mascot type thing?
Yeah, and there was a lot on the Saturn too. Like I know, there's like Clockwork Knights. There was Bug. There's like you said, there's a bunch of different ones on the Saturn already, and they all kind of were not great to bad.
wasn't there a possum one?
Well, there was Awesome Possum on Genesis.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was already on Genesis.
I don't think that was on Super Nintendo, right? That might have been a Genesis only game, right? Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So mascot games are not foreign to Sega at all. So ultimately, they decided to go with the PS1 because the N64 was also only a rumor at this time. That's another thing to consider. Is like the N64 was very much just something in the clouds. It wasn't even really considered yet because also Nintendo wasn't even thinking about the next generation of hardware. Like they already had a flying out with Sony, and they're like, all right, well. We'll just continue with Super Nintendo.
Yeah, we'll make Donkey Kong Country look amazing.
Yeah. So ultimately, the PS1 was chosen, and the dev kit cost them about $35,000, which seems like a lot of freaking money to me. I don't know.
That seems kind of cheap compared to like what some of the hoops that other things make you jump through.
I'm sure. Well, I guess for those SGI workstations that Donkey Kong had, which were 100,000, right?
Yeah.
I think they're 120,000, something crazy. And Crash is made with $1.7 million budget, which I always point out every single time where, a game with a modest budget of $1.7 million in 1996, and we're looking at games that are like
modest.
Modest.
In $96.
And now games cost hundreds of millions to develop, and there's still developers being laid off because they can't sell enough. It's really wild to see how things change.
Aren't they saying GTA 6 might be in the billions?
They might say there's rumors that it could cost it close to $1 billion at minimum. It could be more. Who knows?
Eesh.
And I would not be surprised. Like Rockstar has taken however long they've taken with this, and I imagine I would not be surprised it's close to $1 billion, which is just mind-boggling because they'll make that in a day.
Yeah.
Whenever 6 comes out, they're gonna make that back real quick. You know? So ultimately, Crash's design too was also inspired by Sega and Warner Brothers because they use obscure animals for mascots like a hedgehog or Taz. And I even consider that, but when you look at Crash, I guess that makes sense because when I was a kid, I don't really think I knew what a Bandicoot was.
No.
Maybe the weirdest animal I knew was the hedgehogs or like a meerkat because of Timon and Pumbaa.
Or Knuckles.
Knuckles, the echidna. Yeah, right. So
I was like, echidnas are real?
It's really cool that they drew on that because, I don't know, I guess it's different than seeing like a dog or a cat or more common animals.
At some point while we were growing up, I did learn that a Bandicoot was from the Australian region. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. He's sort of wacky. But I didn't put 2 and 2 together that they took the inspiration from Taz to have him spin attack.
Yeah, me neither. I just thought that was his Crash attack.
Yeah.
Right? But it makes perfect sense that he was influenced by Taz. It makes perfect sense, yeah. So some of the graphics, I want to talk about some of the graphics in the scene because for a PS1 game, this looks pretty amazing, especially back then. Like I remember playing this game on a demo disc. I don't know if it was through the PlayStation Magazine or I know there's like a Pizza Hut demo or something like that. And, it makes a really fantastic first impression because it's of how fantastic or how vibrant the colors are and like how, the graphics come at you and like everything looks pretty clean for what it is.
I just remember that Sony was making kind of a big deal that this is going to be their mascot finally because they didn't launch with one like Mario came with the Nintendo and Sonic for the most part came with Sega, if not a couple years later. But like Crash, like Sony never launched with one. You might say like, oh, Sweet Tooth in Twisted Metal because that was a really early game, but you don't want that as like selling the system to your little kids.
You cannot, not with the content of that game.
So here comes Crash finally, and like I think they hit it out of the park right away because they got the music right. It was very cartoony and welcoming to kids. They got the colors, like you said, the vibrancy, the little mask, the little tiki mask.
Yeah,
he has
uka.
He has little
colored
feathers and everything, and he's very just playful and cartoony. And then Crash, when he shows up, even in these original PS1 graphics, he has so much expression on his face.
Yeah, and that's what's really amazing because a lot of PS1 games don't age well at all. Like,
Yeah.
just because they have texture breakup, there's a lot of texture warping, right? And I guess one of the things here, so Jason Ruman, again, he was the co-founder of Naughty Dog, he suggested that they emphasize polygon count over textures to create more detailed graphics. And what that basically means, like, instead of relying on the PS1 to draw in and pull in textures and also which causes tearing and, it's just streaming issues, they decided that they could shade the polygons, which is another sort of way to get more detail and expressiveness without having to rely on textures and have these really detailed textures.
Is that sort of like an advanced way of what Star Fox did on Super Nintendo?
I think that's kind of the same principle where it's like you have these sort of flat vertices and they're shaded in a certain way.
But they just had way more
But they're more
Crash.
defined. Yeah, exactly. Crash just has, it's the PS1, of course.
Yeah.
But I think it's a similar idea where it's like they didn't rely on like sort of wrapping a texture around Crash, so it's like you could see all the imperfections, all the all the pixels and whatnot, right, and stretched out.
Yeah, think about other, like, even Lara Croft could have been a mascot on PS1, but like her face always stayed still.
Yeah,
because it was just like a texture.
She had no expression.
And that's what they were
blink.
doing with the humans of the time, like from GoldenEye, all those characters, and Turok and everything. But here's Crash, where like his eyes and his nose and his mouth were all individually like doing something.
Yeah, and a big part of that was because they were using something called vertex animation, which is this way of using these sort of polygonal meshes over the models, and each sort of part of the mesh would be able to contort, or they would also tween the frames of animation between them, so you could have like smoother, like when he smiles or something like that. Versus, I guess like more commonly was used was like skeletal joints, where it's like it's a little bit more rigid, even though it's like more common and easier. But I think it's probably where like Lara Croft was, where they probably use skeletal joints, right? Because she was kind of boxy.
Definitely looks like she was a moving skeleton.
Yeah. So all that detail in the vertex meshes allowed Crash to have far more expressive animations, which you really need for like an animated character. And even Jason Rubin, he was quoted saying, "It was that opening sequence when Crash pulls his flat face out of the sand, shakes it off, looks confused, leaps up and looks at the camera and does the great big goofy smile that sold Crash as a character.
Yep.
No 2D game could afford the art, and no other 3D game had the facial animation that our Vertex system brought. And thus, the main character was transformed from motionless vehicles to an emotive friend." And I think that's like a perfect way to describe Crash, because that's one thing it's right away. Like you said, the first opening scene when you see Crash, like he just looks like an animated character. And you're playing an animated game, like this looks really amazing for the time.
And the first level where he's running at the screen, because you're always running away from something in those levels, his expression of like fear is kind of how you're feeling if you're playing it for the first time.
Yeah, you look a little anxious, your eyes widen almost. Yeah, and you can see that.
You lean forward and you're just like hoping that he makes it, and he's hoping that he makes it.
Yeah, it works really, really well because it's relatively simple looking as far as like the geometry and whatnot, but everything just looks so good and vibrant that it just really pulls you in the moment you start playing this game. So a couple of reviews before we get into what we thought of the game, especially you. Just I'm curious what you thought about this one, especially coming from the Insane trilogy.
Yeah.
So reviews for EGM, issue 87, October 1996. These are all out of 10. They gave it an 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, and an 8. The best feature were the graphics. Worst feature was narrow paths. They thought it was excellent all around with lots of levels, great animation, variety, and fun. The bright and detailed graphics impressed all the reviewers. They were really just highlighting that in each sort of bit of copy. One reviewer thought that Crash's jumps were too slow and inaccurate. Another said it takes all the best of Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario, and Taz. And overall, they appreciated the perspective changes, which kind of covered the levels that were on straight paths, which is true because really these games are all A to B, right? It's just a matter of how the perspective they're showing you to give the impression that it's different or 3D.
Yeah, it's like running away, running towards, or classic side-scroller.
Yeah. GamePro reviewed this, issue 97, October 1996. They gave a graphics of 5 out of 5, sound of 4, controller 4.5, fun factor 4.5. They said the graphics are lush, clean, and colorful, and had the most stunning scenery of the 32-bit generation so far. They really love the animations. All of Crash's death animations in particular were like the highlights, which I think they're all really great. They're all really stupid and fun. Like you don't want to kill Crash on purpose, but you're less mad when he does die.
When you fall in a pit and his shoes come flying up.
Yeah. They did note that it could be difficult to judge distances and it lacked some of the innovations that games like Knights and Super Mario 64 had, which is fair, but at the same time, like this came out just around the time that Mario 64 and I think Knights was probably within the last year of this too. So it's kind of hard to fault it for not being more innovative like those games, because Mario 64 is really hard to to come close to, especially at September 1996. Like these came out within a few weeks of each other.
Oh yeah, wow. I didn't even think about that.
I even consider that till right now.
Because they started, production on Crash probably earlier than that. But like, yeah, to have them come out and sort of go head to head. I don't understand the worst feature being the narrow paths, because like I feel like that's just the level, and I trust myself on these narrow paths more than if I have to scoot Mario along a narrow path on Mario 64.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like it is narrow, and I also think that part of it's just sort of the limitations of the PS1, where it's like they couldn't make the path any more grand because it probably would affect performance in some way.
Yeah.
So this is the best they could do at the time, because as we go in the series, like you could definitely tell like the levels are far more larger, wider in scope, and they changed a lot. But for this first game, like yeah, it's kind of narrow, but at the same time, it's not too obtrusive. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's all you need. You have enough room to dodge enemies if you have to, or dodge the explosive boxes and things like that. It's not like you're being forced or funneled into a death trap or something like that.
Exactly. And most, like you said, I think the biggest thing is you could see most of the hazards coming up. If there's a pit, you usually have enough time to react.
Yeah.
Because even like at full speed, Crash isn't going that fast. So it's like you usually can see the edge of the pit. And like, all right, well, I got to jump.
They somehow nailed it perfectly for the levels where you're coming towards the person or towards the screen, and chasing or running away from something. He's at such a distance that you have plenty of time to react. Like even Nintendo games back in the day some of them didn't give you that.
I found the same thing, which I was really surprised at, because you would think just coming at the screen, it's always difficult in any game, even modern games now, because you literally just don't know what's in front of you and you're coming towards the screen.
Yeah.
But for whatever they've done here, how they've designed the levels, there wasn't too many cheap instances where I was like, oh, that I didn't see that, because you could totally cheap the game where it's like just have these stupid pits everywhere and you die. But everything felt pretty reasonable. I would agree that the control is a little stiff. I wouldn't say it's too big of an issue, but I think it's more of a problem in the remake where I guess they changed the hitbox of Crash.
Yeah, that can get annoying on the most narrow of platforms.
Yeah, especially on the ice levels. Those are nightmarish on PS1, and they're even bigger nightmare on the Insane Trilogy.
But I will say that this game has taught me to just go with my gut or go with my instinct, because there are a lot of games in the past, the little spinny fire sticks in Mario. Those are some of the earliest instances where you have to do timing. Platformers are notorious for timing. Like platforms move in and out or disappear and reappear, or they're there and then if you wait too long, they'll crumble. This game just taught me to say, screw it, and jump, and just trust that the platform will be there when you get there.
Yeah.
And I will say that I think this is one of the best games that does that, because there are some games where somehow the timing gets a little off based on when things load in. I've noticed even in Donkey Kong Country, and then you're just kind of screwed out of luck because there's no way with that sort of timing that you're going to make it. Whereas Crash always seems to be set on the correct timing, and you just have to trust yourself to make the jump.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think this is a really well-designed game all throughout. And like I said, I think it's a pretty damn amazing game for 1996. Like, I think Mario 64 basically took all the attention from this, because Crash was still successful. Like, what do I have here? I think it sold, it sold 1 million in 1996, which is huge, with 640,000 of that coming from the US, and it was a 10th best-selling game of 1997. And it reached 1.5 million sales by 1998, and then worldwide it reached 6.8. So it was really successful, but I really do feel like Mario 64 was just that big of a game where Crash was a big deal on PS1, but I think so many journalists, reviewers, and whatnot were talking N64 because that's also brand spanking new, and Mario 64 was the showcase. But I think, two totally different games. I think I still would choose Mario 64 because it's Mario 64. But this is just a really freaking badass platforming game.
Yeah, Mario 64 I would choose to replay more often than this because, I don't know, I just approach it easier. It's sort of a relaxing game, whereas this one, you are going to die, and it will get frustrating.
Yeah, and also, Mario 64 also has like better controls. It's obviously more 3D because it can afford to do that. So I think like that's definitely the better game. But this is like, I don't know, I would say number 2 for that year. I don't know what else would have come out in 96.
I would also give this props for being an early version of kind of modern games where they give you a ton of extra lives, so that even if you're dying a lot, you don't get this anxiety of like, oh, I'm gonna game over and have to go back a certain amount of distance. It's like No, within any level, you could probably gain 2 or 3 or 4 lives.
Yeah, yeah, and also, this game does have sort of extra bonuses where once you beat the level, you can go through. I think there's like a time trial, right?
Yeah.
So that's really good, sort of like a speed run thing. And the time trials are usually pretty tight, meaning like you can have, you have like a slim margin of error. Like you can still make like an error or two.
Yep.
But if you want to get like the time trial rank, you really have to know the levels, which I always appreciate. Like, may not be for me to go through 100% and do that.
Yeah.
It's there if I want to, though.
Yeah, I do it on some of the easier levels.
Me too.
Later, I'll talk about trying it on the more recent ones, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder, yeah. All right, Deucy, let's talk about Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. So this was released November 6th, 1997. This was also by Naughty Dog. This game was also a big seller. It sold 1 million by early 1998, and then by 2007 it sold over 5 million. The story here is that Neo Cortex is defeated in Crash 1, and he's sent falling from his airship into a cave full of glowing crystals. He takes one, and he has his new assistant, Dr. N. Jin. Yeah. There's a lot of puns in this game. They're all like N-Jin, nitrous oxide. It's really goofy and funny. Entropy. Yeah. It's really great and goofy. I love it. And they're trying to build the Cortex Vortex, or rebuild it, I should say. So Engine says he needs 25 crystals to reach maximum power, and they have no more agents. So Cortex devises a plan to use Crash to get them. And then also in this is the first game where Crash's young sister Coco is introduced, where she's like sort of like the parallel to Dixie in a sense.
Oh yeah,
Donkey Kong Country, right? Like she has that same look, same ponytail and everything. I think she's wearing overalls even in part 2. And they basically go on this adventure to take these 25 crystals and also eventually stop Cortex from taking over the world. Production for this started in late 1996, and it took about 13 months over a $2 million budget, so not that much more expensive than Crash 1. And then they also created a brand new engine that was said to be 3 times faster than Crash 1's engine, with 10 times more animation frames and twice the polygons. A fun note about this one, though, that I found out is that a death animation in which Crash is squashed into a stunned, or where he's like sort of,
all you see is like his head and feet.
Yeah, his head is he's like beheaded or something like that.
Yeah.
Apparently, that was taken out from the Japanese version because there was a killer known as the Kobe child murders at that point. I guess he killed 2 kids and beheaded them or something. And
oh, Jesus.
That was sensitive enough for them to take it out of the Crash game, which was pretty shocking for me to read because, that's a wild connection to make, and I didn't know they were that sensitive to it. So it's interesting that was the one death animation that we got in the U.S. version.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think they kept it in the Insane Trilogy, too.
I believe so, because it's just the U.S. version remaster of the case.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd be curious if the Insane version in Japan took that out at this point, because this is relatively fresh. I think the murders happened in like early '97, summer '97, and by the time this came out, they took it out. Which it's fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, this was November of '97.
November,
so,
a few months later. And also, fun fact for this: Clancy Brown from Highlander. He was Kurgan, and also Detroit Become Human. He's the voice of Neo Cortex,
and also in SpongeBob.
Oh, is he in SpongeBob?
Yeah, he's Mr. Krabs.
Oh, I don't think I ever knew that because I did not watch SpongeBob to know that.
And then he was also in Lost, I want to say. I think he was one of the others.
He was.
One of the tailies or one of the
can't
others.
remember his name in that show, yes. But he was in there. He's a really great actor.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
I always like seeing him pop up in things. Yeah, he was really good in Detroit, too.
I don't know if I ever knew he was Neo Cortex in here, but once I heard the voice I played, I was like, now I hear Clancy Brown.
I knew it was somebody good because I always like the interactions with Cortex.
Yeah. Exactly. This game has, I think the one sort of thing that all 3 games, or actually all the games that we're talking about today, they all have like this level of whimsical that works really, really well, right? Like it's very much like an animated movie, and like the humor is just sort of tongue-in-cheek and dumb.
Neo Cortex reminds me of like the human version of the Brain from Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting that, actually.
And it's like you don't mind that he's the bad guy because he's gonna lose. There's no way, even if you don't play that well in the game, it's just like he's not good. He's
never gonna take over the world.
He's stumbling into things and having it happen.
And Engine, I guess, could be like his Pinky in that sense, I guess. Even though he's not as doofusy, I don't know. Couple reviews for this one. EGM issue 101, December 1997. These are all at 10 again, so it's a 9.5, an 8, 8, 8.5. Best feature, awesome graphics. Worst feature, control. The reviewer who gave it a 9.5 said that the graphics are impressive with reflections and lighting effects, and love the warp room concept to choose levels. They point out the controls should have been tighter and it's a little bit easier with the analog stick. The other reviewers mentioned how some in the office didn't like the first game, but they absolutely loved 2.
That doesn't make sense.
Because they're pretty damn similar. The core game's the same.
Except I do enjoy that they gave you the little crouch button or the little slide option.
That does help because you can actually jump a little bit further if you do
Yeah.
the slide thing, and also
Which
jump a little
they
bit higher
don't
with
tell
the cross.
you.
No, they don't.
I had to
remember
read that.
Well, I remembered it because I knew that's something that I had to use for some of the levels,
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to get everything in the bonus areas, you know? Overall, they said it's a huge improvement with new animations, less linearity, and spectacular graphics. They said it could be the best on PS1 up to this point, which I don't recall it was out in 97. This was definitely pre Metal Gear Solid, so I'd say it could be the best on the PS1.
When was Final Fantasy VII? Also 98?
That was 97, early 97.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only other thing that they could really compare it to.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are all like, what do you call it? Pre-rendered.
Pre-rendered backgrounds with, the weird blocky characters.
Same with the Resident Evils had been out, and like those were pre-rendered though.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I could see Crash being like a really good modern marvel for them.
I would say it's impressive only because it's fully 3D. I mean, the levels are still kind of 2D in nature, but the whole game is in 3D. Like, there's no pre-rendered backgrounds, and it just looks fantastic.
That's another reason why I want to pick up the originals, is to see their evolution.
Yeah, you could definitely tell.
Because I remember playing Crash 1 at friends' houses. I might have even rented it. I can't fully remember. But then I didn't play any until 3's like demo. And at that point, I don't recall like comparing too much. And then with the Insane trilogy, I mean, you'd assume that they use the same graphical engines and qualities for all three. But it's weird that it seems like even the 3 games go through an evolution of the modern graphics.
Yeah.
When they should be all the same, but they like 3 to me looks a lot more better, like vibrant and full of life than the first game.
It does. Like, you could, I mean, there's, like you said, there's an evolution, and it's a great example of how to do sequels, right? Because with Crash 2, the big difference here is like now you have sort of like a hub area, right? Like, that does a big change where you can kind of choose your levels, where to go, and all of them have the same format where it's like, you usually get something if you collect all the boxes in there, which is fun, but not fun if you have OCD and you're trying to find that one stupid box you missed.
Oh, that was the thing I was going to bring up in the first game.
Yeah.
I was like, how did I get through this level and miss like 35 boxes?
Yeah.
When I went through the level that they gave me.
Well, because there's always a bonus area. Because I
Yeah.
did the same thing when I replayed the first level. I was like, how did I miss like 30 something? Same thing. I was like, oh, the bonus level has like 30 on there,
Yeah.
So this game does use that same format where it's like you have your boxes, then there's bonus levels, which are usually like on a 2D plane, so you're like side scrolling, and you just have to collect boxes and the Wumpa Fruit, which I love that freaking sound.
Yeah.
When you collect that, like one thing I love about platformers is how they have a little bit more freedom with like their sort of sound design and like the sounds that kind of like earbugs, right, where they stick in your brain.
And they're all different, and you could probably do a little trivia of like name that item collected.
You could.
Where you'd have the Wumpa Fruit, you have the Mario coins, the Sonic rings, even the banjo notes, because those play like little musical,
a little scale.
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, you just want to collect more. It really scratches that itch.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the thing, is just this game, these games, I should say, are just really the total package for me. Like when I was replaying these throughout the week, and I played the Insane Trilogy, I played CTR Remake, but I went back to the PS1 games, and when I was finding myself, I was like, damn, like I really still love these games, because partly it's like, I know it all is nostalgia, but it reminds me of being a kid at that time.
Oh yeah.
And playing through these, like I didn't play Crash too much. I only rented it because I had played Crash 1 and eventually bought it, and then just went straight to Crash 3 and bought that because it was like cheap or something like that at Target. So I'd skipped 2, but playing through these again, and not through the whole game, but when I was replaying, I was like, wow, like these games are just really fun, like just all throughout, between the music, graphics, animation. The boss fights are pretty damn fun, I would say. Not so much in the first game as much. I think they definitely improved as it went on.
The first game is weird because like the first couple of bosses were really hard for me. And then by the end, once I got past those stupid rope bridge levels, those bosses got easier as the game went on, and I couldn't figure out. I was hitting them, and their life bars weren't that large, and I'm like, wait, was that it?
I always assume, this is my assumption, just it seems like as developers go on and they make a game, it might be like they're not running out of time, but they know that they're against time. So it's like maybe they spent more time to make the earlier bosses difficult, and then maybe they loosened it by the time you got later. That's just part of the learning curve too. I don't know.
They expect you to play the opening stages probably more often.
Yeah.
Even if you have saves, like these are modern games, so they have modern saving. You might still just restart a game more often than you are to pick it up from midway. Yeah.
And overall, I would say Crash 2 is definitely an improvement over 1 in a lot of ways. Like I think the reviews are spot on, and even just from my experience, like it's a proper evolution. I think one thing I really appreciate about all of these games in the series is that they they were influenced by platformers of the time. Like you definitely tell Crash 2 took more influence from Mario 64 just by nature of the hub world, right?
Yeah, going through the little warp areas.
Yeah, but they made it its own game, its own identity. So it's like it took the influences, but it also built upon them with what they already had.
I liked the little things they tweaked too. Like for some of the bonus areas in the first game, you had to collect 3 faces of like either his girlfriend or the doctor or whoever. Whereas in 2, you just sort of had to find the bonus area. Like there might be a question mark somewhere, and you could like ground pound, or you could just run over and drop down into the hole. And I just thought that was a little more streamlined than in the first game.
Yeah, the first one, that one really felt like their first platforming game. I don't know if they made any before that. I didn't really look up if Naughty Dog did much before that. I imagine not. Like they're probably just focused on Crash.
Way of the Warrior.
Yeah, Way of the Warrior. Right, went from Way of the Warrior to Crash 1. But yeah, you could definitely tell that they were more comfortable with what they were doing as the games go on. And I think it's just a great example of seeing the difference between Crash 1 and 2. Even graphically, like Crash 2 is just on a much bigger scale. And part of it's like they said they redid the engine, or they sort of expanded on it. You could definitely tell like this is a much bigger game in scope. I really love the sort of little cutscenes with Cortex. Like his face is really expressive. It almost just like he's like a floating head in a screen.
They've always had expressive faces, even on the PS1 version. But yeah, even more so on the new remaster.
It's really impressive. Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about the next game, which this was my favorite for a very long time. And then again, like when I replayed this week, I was like, holy crap. I think this game is one of the best on PS1, bar none. It's Crash 3 Warped. This was released November 3rd, 1998, again by Naughty Dog. And this ended up selling about 6 million units. So this wasn't like a late PS1 game, but this is definitely when like the PS1 had hit its stride, so to speak, because again, at this point, Metal Gear was out. They're more used to like experiences like Final Fantasy VII, Crash. PS1 was just on absolute fire at this point. Like it could do no wrong. N64 was doing really well too. That's not to say anything about them. Mm-hmm. Saturn, unfortunately, was basically dead in the US at this point. So it was basically a PlayStation versus Nintendo game at this point.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And Crash 3 came out, and the story here is that, Cortex is back. And at this point...
that's one thing I enjoyed about these, and I'm pretty sure it happened in the original series, even though they were all a year apart. But like the next game continues like almost instantly after the first game.
It's a straight continuation, which I didn't really connect when I was younger because they were so spread apart. And then I was reading through it, I was like, wow, they're instantaneous. Like these events are happening. It's not like he's sort of going back to his chalkboard and figuring out a plan. Like he's persistent.
He's literally like flying out of the sky that you just beat him in the previous game.
So Cortex is he's in a space station that crash lands back on Earth, and then what this does is sets free the power known as Uka Uka, who is the twin brother of Aku Aku. Who's Crash's buddy, who's like gives him invincibility and swarms around him. So Uka Uka is revealed to be the mastermind of every scheme that Cortex has put together. And at this point, Uka Uka is pissed because he's like, well, you've been failing every single time. So he basically takes over the whole sort of operation, take over the world, and he enlists the help of Dr. Nefarious Tropy, Dr. N. Tropy. He's the inventor of the time-twisting machine that will allow Cortex's minions to collect crystals from all these different points in time. So this was doing the multiverse thing long before the multiverse was a common thing as it is today.
And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of smart, because in the second game, it's all in one time period, and they didn't get the crystals there. They got them, but they didn't work. And then it's like, well, we still need crystals. Let's go to different timelines.
Let's pull it back to the future. At this point. And that's great because what this does, I love that this is like a plot device because it allows them to, further expand the variety of the game because now you have like play with everything. You could do whatever time frame you want, So I think that was a good choice. Like it's a little bit silly now, and it's funny now that like that's sort of every movie and TV show's excuse for things like, well, we have a multiverse. You can pull, multiverse
from everywhere.
Yeah, you can pull from everywhere, and they all exist at some point in time. So the development for this started in late January 1998 with only 10.5 months to develop the game with a budget of around $2 million. So again, like pretty consistent budget across all 3 games. The team created 3 new gameplay engines to support the game this time around. They supported the 3D sort of element, the 3D sections. There was an engine for the jet ski and airplane levels, and there's another one for the motorcycle levels. So just by naming those, you can already tell that there's a lot of variety in this game. I think it's really impressive because even Mario 64 did not have this variety. Of course, this is post Mario 64, but not many games had that level of variety for platformers at this time.
I bet, I was going to say Mario, if it got sequels, they would try something new and crazy in each of them. But they never really did that. They always wanted like one Mario per system.
Yeah, one per generation almost seemed like.
Yeah.
Especially on the N64, where I don't know what the issue was with development times, but it's just like they had one Mario game. I was surprised we got 2 Zelda games. That was kind of an anomaly, right?
2 Banjo
Banjos
games.
Yeah.
But Crash, got a full trilogy, so they could just like, and the times were roughly the same, maybe a little shorter. It's kind of impressive that 3 was probably a shorter development time, but they added 2 more engines and everything.
Yeah, it has to be one of those things where it's like they were firmly established with what 1 and 2 were doing, so now they had experience under their belt, so they knew what they could do and how to sort of have solutions for the stuff that they were used to doing. But now it's like, how can we make the game bigger and better? And that's what they did. And they worked on these 3 engines. And the thing is, like, Naughty Dog now, like, they've done like Last of Us, they've done a whole bunch of other games, Infamous, Uncharted, right?
Yeah,
they do so much great stuff. It really is amazing that over the last.
Did they do Spider-Man?
I believe they did do Spider-Man.
Wow.
I think they're doing Wolverine too, right? Is that Naughty Dog?
Yeah, maybe.
Right. So
they're doing that one in space too coming out.
What's it called? Intergalactic?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that too. But it's just really amazing when you look at sort of their catalog of games, because what I forgot is that they also developed the Jak and Daxter games on PS2.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And Jak and Daxter 1, I remember just being blown away by that when it came out, because that was the first game that said, and it wasn't lying, no load times. The whole world was seamless, which, as far as I know, had never been done before. Like, you could travel to any point in the world, no load screens. It was a collectathon. Really fantastic series that I wish would come back. But again, that's Naughty Dog. Like, they just seem to have this signature style that's permeated through each generation.
Who did Ratchet and Clank?
God, who was that? I don't know if that was Naughty Dog.
I don't
think that was Naughty Dog.
No. But I was just thinking the other day, like,
those came around the same time. I think it was a different developer.
PlayStation, for the longest time, they didn't have a mascot, and then Crash came, but also Spyro came. And if you think about it, sort of Lara Croft and Tomb Raider was a mascot for PlayStation.
She was for a long time, yeah.
And then into the next generation, when PS2 showed up, all of a sudden you had Ratchet and Jak and Nathan Drake, who was in PS3.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sort of like this passing of the torch where PlayStation didn't have one specific one like a Mario or a Sonic, but they did have evolutions of them. And Naughty Dog was like more than 50% of them.
Well, and you're right, because it's kind of unorthodox for a time, right? Because it's like you said, Sega and Nintendo had basically one mascot. That was like when you associate Nintendo and Sega, it's Sonic or Mario. You don't really associate with Zelda as much. It's always just Mario was a mascot. And like you said, Sony didn't have a mascot necessarily, and all of a sudden they have several. Like,
yeah.
Spyro came out. I thought Spyro was around the same time as Crash 1, but it was 98, which was kind of shocking.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know it was that late.
That was already...
Not late in the PS1, but, a few years into the PS1.
That's already after Crash's trilogy.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, yeah. And so Ratchet and Clank was done by Insomniac, who I forgot, but yeah, who else did they did? They did Resistance. They did they did Spyro. There you go. And they did Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
So they're the ones doing Wolverine. I got them mixed up.
Wow, damn.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a pretty wild interconnected history they have between the two, because those are amazing platformers. Yeah.
And this all leads to the reason that Astrobot did so well, because they just pulled from all of these old mascots.
They did. There's even the mascots are in them as well. Yeah, it's great. So reviews for Crash 3, EGM issue 114, January 1999. Again, these are all at 10. 9.5999. Best feature, incredibly tight gameplay. Worst feature, and this is a good one. This is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog's last Crash game.
Yeah.
That sucks when you know developers that damn good, and you're like, damn, this is the last game they're probably going to make for the PS1. They said, one review said that they liked Spyro a lot, but loved Crash 3 way more. The 3 levels and immense variety were standouts. The controls and presentations are slick and refined, while taking inspiration from the other platforming greats. And all reviewers said it's one of the finest examples of a platformer that is just fun to play. And I think that is very succinct and very true, because, like I said, when I revisit this, for one, it looks really great for a PS1 game, just as far as like how smooth it looks and the graphics and the art style and how fast it actually moves. And it's one of my favorite platforms, because I remember when I played through this game, like, I did the 100% thing. I didn't do the time trials, but I got like everything I could, and it was just fun to do that. It was just, there was enough incentive for me to get to enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, there was a thing I was going to mention for 2, but I would also carry it over to 3, where, like, if I had a player's guide for this game, I would probably 100% these, more so than even the first game. The first game I've just been wanting to get through. I don't care the boxes I get. I've just, like, the platforming is crazy.
It's a harder game to get into, and I agree. And also, like, it's just not as fun to collect everything in the first game.
Yeah, I just want to. I'm enjoying the challenges of the movement, except for the level I just did on one, which was the blackouts. Like Aku is the light. I
forgot about that one. Yeah,
Holy
I forgot about
crap.
that. That was not a fun level.
But I got through it, and once I did, I was like, well, I did that. Now get me on to the next one because. But with 2 and 3, I actually looked it up on my phone, and I was like, how do I get this gem that I see, but I can't get to it? And it was like, oh, you have to go to a different level, make it come back. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of willing to try that.
Yeah, and this uses the hub world format, so it's usually you have to beat a few levels. You collect the glowing crystal, which then unlocks a boss, sort of like a boss key in a sense.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, it unlocks a boss, which you then get a boss key from. But it has, again, it's that same format of like Mario, where it's like, or Banjo-Kazooie, I should say, is probably closer, where it's like you collect a certain amount of jiggies, and you can go to the boss in the next section kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it works so freaking well in this game. GamePro, we'll talk about GamePro. Issue 124, January 1999. They gave graphics, sound, control, fun factor, all 5s.
Yeah, I was looking for this. I'm like, one of these has got to get a perfect score. It has to be a damn near
perfect score, yeah.
But of course, like GamePro would be the one to do it. Like EGM, even though they give out good scores finally, they're a
little bit more strict.
Yeah.
I think they're a little bit more critical of things. And I say that like in general they're critical. Sometimes they're just stupid, which we've pointed out in a few instances, right? Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like my feelings for these 3 games, playing them back to back, mirror the reviews of each game. They got
agree.
Better and better each time.
Yeah, like you could definitely tell there's a scale here, and I really think that Crash 3 is one of the best platformers of the time. Like it, bar none. It's right when I was playing, I was like, this is just so fun to play. Like it just feels so good to play. It's just an enjoyable time. Like I could really sit there and just play through it if I wanted to.
I think it helps that they added so much to it because, like I was telling you, I totally forgot or maybe didn't know that there was the scuba levels in the third one, and it helps that like not every level is a side scroller or a running away from something type.
Yeah,
level.
the writing here really makes it shine, and also I was really impressed because I played the first jet ski level, which I was shocked to see that there's water physics.
Oh yeah,
PS1 game like this is this is post Wave Race, but it had some of the better water physics I've seen in a PS1 game, like the way you're kind of chopping through the water, and there's a weight with the jet ski, and it feels like jet moto, but even more confined because you have to avoid bombs and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
And then there's also the motorcycle levels that are really fun. I remember that being like a big thing in the commercials and ads. Like it was like Crash being attitudinal with like a leather jacket and sunglasses, right? It's just such like a really charming, just such a fun time to play this game. Some notes from the game review. They said the graphics are like playing a cartoon, and there's even more moves that Crash can do now. They said it's a definite must-buy and a contender for PlayStation Game of the Year. They said there's an unbelievable variety of levels, or in the levels as well, and love that you can play as Coco with different levels that let you fly planes, ride jet skis, race motorcycles, and ride the back of a tiger across the Great Wall of China, which is a really cool level. I had a great time doing that one because it was basically just like, what do they call those mobile games? Is it like the portal rental things? What are they Endless Runners.
Yeah.
It's similar to that.
Which is odd because like this, I think you have listed that there is a game like that now on.
It's one of the more modern ones, yeah.
And I'm like, that makes complete sense. It makes more sense to have Crash in one of these than a Mario or,
I agree,
or something.
Because I think it fits with what Crash is. Like he started off as basically just like this, you're running vertical, you're running to the side, wherever the case is. Like it's just from A to B, very direct.
There was a while ago. I don't know if it's still around, but there was a Sonic Endless Runner that made sense too.
I heard about that one. I think I played that on my iPad like a long time ago.
And I was like, yeah, this makes sense. And he just, it's like Temple Runner, but faster.
Yeah, and you just got to jump. Which, I mean, that's what you do in the Sega games anyway.
Swap the little, swap the paths when something gets in your way. Come back to the middle.
So overall, Deucy, what are your thoughts on the trilogy, the initial trilogy? Because we're going to talk about Crash Team Racing here soon enough. But for me, I think Crash 3 is definitely the pinnacle of the series. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about so far, like it's just sort of, you see that natural evolution of a sequel, and like it's not like one of those sequels where it's derived or it's a lot of the sameness. Like they really tried their best to add variety, add new characters, add new ways to play, and I think they've nailed it.
It's I enjoyed one. It was like a stepping stone. I enjoyed one, and like I said, I'm pretty close to the end. I really want to try to beat that and put that on my completed list for my life. But 2 and 3 just got better and better. Like 2 didn't do too much different except for add a couple moves, but like they perfected the 3 types of levels that you had, the running away, running forward, and running side to side with those new moves. And then that's what left it open for 3 to add all these new things to it. Like, okay, we perfected that in 2. Let's try something new in 3. And so it just made it better and better each time. I will actually try to play all 3 of these and try to finish them all. And who knows if I try to collect more of this stuff, but it's fun to just sort of, as I'm doing the levels, maybe stop, and to take a break, I go back and try a speed run.
Yeah, that's what I love about it, is like you do have more options for that, because there's a lot to collect, there's a lot to do. And again, I don't remember what you unlock for everything. I'm sure it's something cool you can do. But it's just great that you have that option where it's like you beat the levels. The time trials, like I did one in the first level, and like the first one time, I think the time was like 1 minute and 3 seconds. I did like 1 minute 3 seconds and 8600. So it's like, well, I kind of have to do this over again, don't I? If I missed it by that much, and of course I got it the next time, which is also cool because when you do the time trials, at least in Crash 3, I don't remember if it was the case in 2, there's certain boxes that freeze the timer for some amount of time, right? Which is really cool.
That's in all 3 of them, yeah.
Oh, it's in all 3? Okay, I couldn't remember. But yeah, that's like a really cool game where it's like you're speedrunning the levels and also the shave time off. You should hit these boxes in the middle of your run to stop time for a couple seconds, right? So it's just, this is a really fantastic trilogy, and I think 3 is one of the best platformers on the PS1 and of the generation. And I would put it above like most anything else. I mean, it's Mario 64 really is sort of like the peak, I would say, right? I don't know if there's anything else much about, but there's like the banjos, there's other things, but Crash 3 is right up there with the rest of them. All right, Deucy. So now we're going to talk about one that I think was a surprise for me, maybe for all of us when we played this.
Yeah.
But it's Crash Team Racing, which was released October 19th, 1999, again by Naughty Dog. This has a story because it has an adventure mode, but again, like this is influenced by one of our favorite games, Diddy Kong Racing. So much so that it has an adventure mode where an extraterrestrial named Nitrous Oxide claims to be the fastest racer in the universe, which I think is kind of like a WizPig thing to do, right?
That is exactly what WizPig
did. Yeah, it's like WizPig did, yeah. So they, maybe they had a little bit of an influence on here. And basically, he sort of sets up this tournament to find Earth's fastest racer, as he's called it, the survival of the fittest. And basically, he made a deal that if Earth's best racer beats him, he'll leave Earth. Otherwise, he'll basically take over Earth and enslave everybody. So that's a hell of a wager.
I feel like that was what WizPig said too.
I think it was. Yeah. So this game's main gimmick here is the adventure mode, like we mentioned, and you race through all the tracks, getting trophies, which pretty much every race you should finish in first, because you have to get sort of a relic, and then you get these sort of I think you get the gems, the glowing gems. And then those unlock boss races, which get you boss keys. And there's also tokens that have multiple colors in these levels.
Yeah.
And to do that, similar to Diddy Kong, you have to collect all of them and get in first. So they took some of the craziest stuff of Diddy Kong and also added in here. And then bosses are also unlocked like Diddy Kong, where you collect enough trophies and you get to race them or fight them, and you get a boss key, which opens up the next area. Naughty Dog wanted to create a game that initially they had like block-headed characters as a means to pitch a new Crash game to Sony. And work for this actually started after Crash 2, which I'm kind of shocked it took so long, because they made Crash 3 in the middle of all this in parallel. Yeah.
Wow.
So ended up taking, I guess, overall, it was like 8 months by the time it was actually ended up being finished. They said that the team recreated Crescent Island from Diddy Kong Racing, excuse me. That was a track from Sherbert Islands, which I don't really recall because, to me, frankly, most Diddy Kong's levels aren't that memorable.
No.
Unfortunately.
I mean, I remember the themes, but I don't remember individual names.
Exactly. Me neither. Like, they're all really similar. And they really used that sort of island proximate to kind of test the PS1's scale and scope. Kart tires, which I thought this was fun. This was also like Diddy Kong, where the kart tires were rendered as 2D sprites to save on resources, because this also has 4-player mode, which we've talked about in Twisted Metal. It's kind of unusual for most PS1 games to have 4-player mode, because some PS1 games barely ran with 2 players.
I feel like this is one of the ones where we actually used a multi-tap.
We played a lot of this 4-player. I remember this was really unusual for us, because this probably got the most use out of that PS1 multi-tap, I would say, by bar none. Reviews before we get into the racing stuff here. We have EGM, issue 125, December 1999. They gave this a 10, 8.5, 9.5, 9.5. Best feature, incredibly fun to play. Worst feature, I don't like this one. Major Mario Kart influences. I'm like, that's kind of a good thing, though.
Like, duh.
Yeah, like, what? Come on now.
Actually, more like Diddy Kong influences.
I would say it's more Diddy for sure. Yeah, it took features from both, but it's definitely more heavily Diddy Kong. The reviewer scored a 10, said it's incredible and better than Mario Kart in some respects. It plays like Diddy Kong Racing, but even better. Yeah. He appreciated all the extras and to collect and finish the game. One reviewer said it's the best Mario Kart knockoff on the PS1, and all 4 reviewers loved that it had a 4-player mode, which I think is a big hallmark for this game. GamePro reviewed it, issue 135, December 1999. Graphics 5, sound 4.5, control 5, fun factor of 5. They love the lush 3D graphics with smooth animations and a great sense of speed. They said it's an instant PS1 classic with lots of different challenges and modes, and all of it is well designed that appeals to both new players and veterans.
This, I mean, they call it a Mario Kart knockoff, but I feel like it's a Diddy Kong Racing knockoff with Mario Kart attributes.
Yeah, 100% it's a combo of both.
Because like Diddy Kong was great for the story mode. We praised it. It got its own episode on our podcast.
Yeah, really old one. I think it was like, episode 8 or something crazy.
Yeah. And I do realize that was kind of a weird, slow, clunky game, whereas this one had the speed and the competitiveness of Mario Kart, and then you add on the story aspects and the collectathon, you might say, and it just was like, it's what tore me away from Mario Kart for a brief period of time. I borrowed this from you and then like beat all of it.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that, because as I was replaying this, it was like, wow, like I forgot how much more I love this game more than Diddy Kong Racing. That's not to say Diddy Kong's a bad game, obviously, at all.
Yeah.
We're just saying, in comparing the two in hindsight, this is a much better game. Of course, this also had the benefit of coming out after Diddy Kong, so I could see what it did, what they wanted to do better, what they did wrong, whatever, right? That's the benefit when you have a game that comes out after. It's like you can see what the other people did and say, well, we don't like that, so we'll improve this. And I think this game really improved on basically everything I didn't like about Diddy Kong. The variety of levels here are really good. I think the tracks have sort of undulation, like there's ups and downs, which I can't recall, but outside, like Diddy Kong mostly had flat ground, unless you're flying and whatnot, right? Like there wasn't a whole lot of up and down in the areas.
No, yeah, if you think about it, like some of the snow levels had it. The only undulation you would really get is when you were doing the watercraft.
I was gonna say the watercraft, like the lava areas and whatnot, right? But the tracks were, if anything, they felt kind of confined there, and they felt, I think we mentioned even in the episode, like these felt kind of basic. Like the layouts weren't very impressive.
A very simple oval or something like that.
Yeah. So when I replayed this, and we'll talk about the remaster soon enough here, but I was really impressed at how well it held up, how fast it felt. And I really love the boost system here, because they designed it to sort of have this level of interactivity and sort of a skill curve, which I think makes perfect sense. And frankly, I wish Mario Kart World ripped that off instead of using just stunts over and over. But here you drift into your turn, and then you have a little bar that fills up. And while you're turning and drifting, you have to you have to hit the L1 and kind of time it.
Yeah.
And it increases your boost strength, which is really great because it adds that sort of skill gap between like casual players and if you really know the track. And frankly, if you want to do well in this game, you need to master the boosting because it is hard.
Yeah.
If anything, that's my only fault for this game is how freaking difficult it actually is.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. I forgot about that boost system until I played the remaster of it. But like Mario Kart really could have used that because Mario Kart introduced a great power slide boost mechanic, but it was always the same throughout every game.
Yeah.
Like waggle the stick. Some of them you didn't have to waggle. It was based on timing. And in this one, it was like, here, while you're doing that, why not give yourself a little boost in the middle of the turn and just keep doing it? And like, I was like, yeah, this would be, because if you power slide as normal, you're going to build up the boost. And when you let go, it's going to boost. But like you said, as sort of a skill gap or a skill tree, an advanced player could hit those timing parts in the middle of it.
Yeah, because it does become second nature. And again, it's almost like a bit of a risk reward because the other side of it's like if you trigger the turbo too early, then you just don't get a boost. And maybe it might hamper your speed just a smidge. But of course, that smidge could be enough for the person to catch up and pass you because they might be boosting and doing it correctly, you know?
Well, they sure do if the other person is a computer player.
They certainly are, yeah. So there's a lot of variety in this game. And frankly, this is just such a spectacular PS1 game. And it's just one of the all-time great kart racers that, frankly, like I don't want to say I forgot about, but I really sort of underappreciated for what it was at the time because we just, we hopped off of this back to Mario Kart, not instantaneously, but, it's just kind of the routine of things.
For me, I feel like it was the ease of access because I always sang its praises, but I never went back to replay it as much as Mario Kart or even Diddy Kong, just because it was like, on my PlayStation. At the time, I always had to turn my PlayStation upside down.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
And then, like, if you didn't have the 4-player adapter, you could only do 2 players. And I didn't have the PS1 version. You did. So if I had a bunch of friends over without you, we were stuck with the 2-player.
Yeah.
Or we would go to N64.
Exactly. That's also a fair point too, where it's like it depends on how many people you had and everything.
Yeah.
But I do remember I was playing this a lot with 4-player. Like I remember specifically like doing a lot of fun stuff on the Egyptian levels because there's a lot of jumps there, and it's just every theme is just so well thought out, and it's just so fun to play. Like all the characters are really zany and goofy, and like I know EGM said like it's a Mario Kart. It influences the worst feature. I'm like, that's really the best part of this game. Is that, again, they took what was great about Mario Kart and Diddy Kong and made it its own thing. Like, I can't say this is derivative of those. It really just took what it did and did them better.
It's like, what did they want? It to be influenced based on like some other racing game that didn't make it on the market?
Well, it's weird. It's almost like, again, it's like we see some of these instances where they don't have anything bad to say, so they just like throw something out there that makes no sense, which I would have just said like worst feature of this game, like difficulty. Like some of the CPU on normal could be very brutal. And we can use that to talk about the remake that was released in 2019. This is Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled. Metacritic for this was 83 out of 100. I didn't really get any reviews necessarily for this. This was developed by Beanox. They have a long history of games. They've mostly done like the Spider-Man games of like the 360 era.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, they're familiar. Like if you hear them, you kind of like, oh yeah, I remember Spider-Man Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions and all that. They did a bunch of like Call of Duty games. They did the newer Crash 4 and one of my favorites, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake. So this kind of this is a remaster, but expanded on the original. They had characters from the original Crash Team Racing. They also added some from Crash Nitro Kart. And the adventure mode here has a classic mode, which really just means that the difficulty is set and you can't swap characters, which basically means you're committed to whoever you choose at the beginning of the game, which, I didn't realize that was a thing in the old game. I guess it was, yeah. And then Nitro-Fueled version, which basically means you can swap and change difficulty, which I would recommend because this game is brutal.
Do the characters have different stats?
They do have different stats. Like I think they're rated on turning, which is sort of like, I think it's like Diddy Kong, where it's like turning, acceleration, and speed. And Crash, of course, is like the Ryu and Ken, where he's like the most balanced.
Yeah.
And like Tiny the Tiger, who's like the big hulking guy, I think. He's got like, high speed, low acceleration, and
he's
like low
Bowser
turn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they'll have the different archetypes and different classes.
I guess I could see why it would be beneficial to switch based on the track that's coming up.
I think that's really the biggest thing, because unless you really know your character in the original, then you're stuck doing the entire adventure mode, which again is pretty expansive with one character, but more than likely you're playing as one character anyway.
That's how I beat the game. Like I don't think I could ever beat this remaster because of the difficulty, but the original I beat it. I feel like I 100%ed it, and it was all with one character. I think I was Crash the entire time.
I'm positive my brother and I did, because we would switch off. And I remember getting 100%, and then I think he was the one who got the last couple of challenges, because I remember him letting me know, like, hey, we finished it. Like I got the last couple, because there's some really brutal challenges in this game.
Yeah,
and, they're fun and worthwhile, but you definitely have to know the game in and outs. And I really love the remaster because, of course, it looks incredible. Like it's just a whole new fresh coat of paint on this thing. It's rebuilt. It's weird because it's not a remake, but they consider remaster because a lot of it's rooted in the original game.
I was gonna say, is it like the Insane Trilogy where they didn't have the original and they had?
I'm assuming that's the case.
That must be why the difficulty was weirdly different.
Yeah, and also I assume if it's like the Insane Trilogy, like I read there that they consulted some like hardcore players and some hardcore fans to make sure the game felt right and everything like that. So maybe it's just tuned a little bit too high for veterans. Because I remember, even when I replayed the PS1 version, it was a little difficult, but it wasn't as difficult, I felt, as the remake. And I should have you play it just to get a temperature for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because for me, like it felt like the remake, you really have a really small margin of error. Like if you screw up a turn or a boost, it's like, oh, geez, well, good luck trying to get back in first at this point. So that's like the only blemish in this game. Like I think the remaster is really great. My only other nitpick is that I wish they would make like a PS5 or Series X version where it runs at 60 frames a second, because the game looks gorgeous and it runs at 30 frames fine.
Wow, I didn't realize it wasn't at 60.
I noticed it on my TV.
Dang.
Yeah, but it still has a great sense of speed. Like it doesn't look like it performs bad. It's just you want that crispness that like Mario Kart has.
I can't remember if I've played it since I've gotten a Series X.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've played it on my PS5, and again, it doesn't look bad or anything. It's just, it's like you just wish you'd have the upgrade. That's all it is, right? But the remaster is worthwhile. I think you could find it now for like, $12 to $20.
It's always in giant combos where you can get the Insane Trilogy 4 and
That's right.
CTR all together.
Yeah, I think, Spyro and Insane has a bundle, right?
That one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's the best bang for your buck,
frankly. There's one where it's like the 4 Crash games without CTR. They just find every which way to mix and match.
Yeah, and they're worth it. Like the remake is worth playing.
Yep.
Again, like the difficulty can be kind of annoying, but I played online a little bit when it first came out. I'm sure it's dead now. It was enjoyable, but it's a really great car racer. Like there's not, the car racing game now, like there's not a whole lot, and it's really just like Mario Kart's really a top dog, like always, and everything else is just good or great to not worth playing kind of thing.
Yeah, it would have been cool if they could have done like just a CTR 2 or something just to continue it on.
Yeah, just make a new one at this point.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that, and just for God's sake, just tune the difficulty down a little bit. I mean, like Mario Kart World has taken the mantle of nonsense,
for a weirdly different reason.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
Mario Kart just screws you at the end of the race.
Yeah.
This just screws you the entire race. It's a little different. Yeah. All right, so before we get to the Crash Bandicoot N, Sane Trilogy and Crash 4, I just want to briefly talk about some of the games that are coming out after CTR. So Crash still made a ton of games. There was Crash Bash, which is a Mario Party type game. I remember playing this in a demo. I have it. I know we've never played because Mario Party existed, so there wasn't much reason to play this. I know this got kind of mediocre reviews at the time, so it wasn't very spectacular. But I mean, even Sonic had a Mario Party game. It was called Sonic Shuffle, and it was all just trying to chase that Mario Party
magic,
a nugget and magic.
Yeah.
Just kind of like being like, well, it's good, but it's not as good.
It's funny that for as many people who complain about Mario Party and its randomness and how you'll get completely screwed at the end, everybody goes back to that and they don't play these others.
It's still a great time.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is like Mario Kart, you can complain about the nonsense, but just like Mario Kart, the game, Mario Party has the same shenanigans and you're just having a great time at all the BS happening, It's just other games can't match that apparently. And then there was the Crash finally went into the PS2 era with the Wrath of Cortex. This was first on PS2 and then later ported to GameCube and Xbox, which was really unusual for me because Crash was a PS exclusive for forever, basically, right? And this was developed by Traveler's Tales, which I knew they sound familiar, but they did like Mickey Mania way back in the day, Toy Story, and they did a ton of Lego games, right? Traveler's Tales. Like when you hear them, you're like, I remember Traveler's Tales.
I knew their name mostly for the Lego games. I totally forgot about the Toy Story.
Right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And after that, they had like a bunch of GBA games. There was Crash Nitro Kart, which was a sequel. Crash Tag Team Racing, which I'm sure tried to capitalize on Mario Kart Double Dash.
Oof.
Crash Boom Bang, which I never even heard of. This was a DS party game.
What?
Yeah. Crash of the Titans, that was on 360 and like PSP. There was Crash Bandicoot Nitro Kart 3D, which was a mobile game that was also on the N-Gage, believe it or not.
Yikes.
Yeah, can you believe that nonsense? And there was Crash Mind Over Mutants. That was in 2008. That was on 360 and all the modern systems of the time. And then there was a couple mobile games like Crash Mutant Island and Nitro Kart 2 in 2010. So again, I've mentioned like there's a lot of history with Crash in between the CTR and what we're talking about with Crash 4. But I feel like we had to at least mention the history it had, even though we're not really familiar with most of these. Like I've played like a handful, and they were just kind of like fine and unremarkable. Like, I think I was just not into Crash at this point. Jack and Daxter existed, and Ratchet and Clank. Sly Cooper.
DK64.
Yeah, they're all kind of overshadowed.
Was Crash Nitro Kart, you said it was kind of a sequel, but it didn't have a story mode or anything? Was it just a basic racer?
I'm not sure. I should look that up because I'd be curious. I'd assume there's no adventure mode. It's probably like GPs, maybe multiplayer. I don't think it had online multiplayer. It'd be interesting to see for that. But yeah, I'm curious if it had an adventure mode of any kind in there.
And then was Wrath of Cortex on PS2, was that set up like the original Trilogy where you have the running away, running forward?
I believe it was. Yeah, because I played a little bit of it when it came out. I haven't played it in like 24 years. I have it somewhere around here, I think. But I was curious to revisit that one because I remember it, I remember it got like pretty solid reviews at the time, but it just didn't click the way that the other games clicked for me at the time. And like I said, at this point, it was just, there was so much out at the time that it was just better. Like Ratchet and Clank was more fun, Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, all those games just kind of overshadowed the Crash games to me in the PS2 era,
Yeah, wow.
All right, so we'll get to the last couple games here. We've been kind of touching on it as we've been going along, but we have Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. This was released first on the PS4 on June 30th, 2017. It was ported to PC, Xbox, and Switch on June 29th, 2018, so just about a year later. It was the first Crash game in about 8 years, and it was developed by Vicarious Visions, who've done like a lot of Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. They're a big thing under Activision, which, Activision also published this game. The Metacritic for this is really solid. It's 80 out of 100. And it's weird because we mentioned how this game is a remaster plus, even though the way that they've described the development, it's sort of like a remake because they didn't have the original source code. They had rebuilt the game using these polygon meshes that were provided by Sony and Naughty Dog. And these meshes were also compressed on old hard drives, which also meant that they had to find a way to sort of decode these in a sense. And a lot of it was just foundational geometry for the levels and the scale, but it didn't have any animations, no designs, no AI, no control timing. So as much of a remaster as this is, it's almost like they had to remake the entire game because you don't have the source code. It's really bizarre. So the soundtrack was also updated with live instruments. This also modernized the graphics and the lighting, and Coco was playable across all 3 games and most of the levels, which is a cool addition. And the core gameplay was preserved because they wanted to preserve the speedrunning exploits in this game. Because, of course, I always appreciate when developers are like, we're going to remake this or remaster it, but we also want to make sure that it preserves a lot of what the original had. And maybe cut out some stuff that didn't need, like, actual glitches. So they worked with a lot of the speedrunning community, I guess, and a lot of their QA team. They really focused on the people who knew Crash in and out to really get the feel for this game. And I think they did a really good job overall. Like, it's hard for me to tell the difference between the two. Like, when I was playing Crash 3 on PS1, it's like, I was like, is this smoother to jump than the Insane Trilogy? But it could just be like thinking that when it's not actually the case.
The main thing I want to see is in Crash 1, the bridge levels.
Yeah.
I want to see how much easier it is to land on a platform and not just slip off because my toes barely touched it.
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest thing that this game changed, and I believe it's been confirmed. I think people were kind of postulating this whole thing, but Crash's hitbox has been changed in here. So some sort of oval or something where in the original game, it was sort of like a square on ramp. So you kind of almost like teeter off the edge of platforms. But in here, because it's so confined to the range of his feet, you can slip off a lot of platforms, and it is a nightmare on those ice levels.
Literally slip.
It is really awful.
It feels like you roll off the edges of things.
It's really crazy. Like, you could see him, exactly, you could see him literally slip, like as if you're slipping off a cliff, like you got water on your shoes.
Yeah.
Like so I'd say that's like the biggest fault of this game is like it kind of sucks that it's arguably more difficult than original games because of the changes to the hitbox. But I guess at the same time, it's weird that, they didn't have the source code and whatnot, and they just decided to go with that because everything else in this game is pretty much one-to-one to how you remember it. It's just, it looks gorgeous now. Like, Crash 3 especially looks like a Pixar movie almost.
Yeah.
I was playing, I was like, holy crap, like, this looks like a Pixar movie. And then you go back to the original PS1 game, it's like you mentioned before in other episodes, where it's like, in your head, this is what it looked like.
Yeah.
Except now you're playing it the way it is.
Yeah, like I said, I played Crash 1 back in the day, and then when I play the remaster, I'm like, yeah, nothing's changed. Even though it really has.
It works really, really great, and everything's preserved just the way you kind of remember it.
My favorite part is in the opening when they're showing like the producer and the developers, and I think it's Cortex is narrating like Activision presents.
He almost sounds like a game show host or something.
And then they do the little thing where there's like a little machine and Crash is putting in the Wumpa fruit and the boxes and stuff. And it looks on one side is the PS1 graphics, and when it comes out of the conveyor belt, it's the new ones.
Yeah.
And then he jumps in and does the same thing. I was like, that is just so fun.
It's such a great joke, and it's just so fun. That really sets it in. Like, you haven't even started the game yet at that point. It's just showing you what to expect, right? And I bought this the day it came out because I was also very excited for it. Like, just, I really hadn't played the original games in a long time before 2017 because, I have them on PS1 and whatever, but, you don't. It's not always you go back to those. It's like it takes a remaster sometimes to really rediscover how much you love the series.
I didn't have a PS4 at the time, so I waited that extra year, but I also bought it day one on Xbox.
I think I remember because I'm sure you probably heard me saying like, hey, this is really great. Check this out at some point whenever it comes out. And Force was ported to everything, and it's great on Switch too because, it's like you can find this for like $20. Same thing, like it's like $15-$20 for all 3 games. And it's absolutely worth it. Like, I can't... If you love platformers at all, you should have already played this already. But if you haven't, like, this game is so cheap. It's worth the price of admission. Difficulty annoyances aside, and the control issues with the first 2 games, more particularly because they're remasters, and they really did try to kind of remain close to the original, both for better and worse. But it's not that big a deal. Like, it's totally manageable.
I mean, the difficulty in this can give you bragging rights. If you have friends that are like Mario kids or Sonic kids, you're like, hey, I actually beat Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah. How fast can you get through the ice level?
I actually survived everything.
Yeah. So this is it's a fantastic remake or remaster. It said the same thing, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a very worthwhile remaster, and it's worth every single penny. It's just a great way to re-experience these classics. And again, like 3 is especially special. I can't harp enough on 3 because it's just so damn good. And when I played the remaster again this week, I was like, wow, this is like platforming bliss. This is what we wanted from like a platform game back then, and it just looks even better now.
I was going to say this about the PS1 versions too, but like when they were just sort of whispers and rumors of a DK64, I totally expected that like they could have done this. Like they could have done DK64 like a Crash game, and I would have been happy with it.
Oh, me too. I would have been all over it. Like I just love this format of games with like the hub world. You know, beat the first few levels, get a key to fight the boss.
A very straightforward approach to the levels.
Yeah. And then if you want, again, go back and collect the gems. If you get all the boxes, get the time trials, you
go back and speed
more
run.
stuff and relics, and it's just such a fantastic loop. And there's so much game here for you to get absorbed in. And it's all worth it. Like you know, this might have been like the one game we had for a while when we were kids, but you were fine with it because you had so much to dive into.
Yeah.
All right, Deucy. So the final game we're going to talk about is the most modern one. It's Crash Bandicoot 4. It's About Time, which fantastic title. I really love the title.
Great
of this
pun.
game. Great pun. Yeah. This was released on PS4 and Xbox in October 2020, and then it got a Switch, PS5, and Series X version in March 2021, which I believe was a free update, if I recall. This is developed by Toys for Bob, who did the Spyro trilogy and a lot of Skylander stuff. I believe they also did the Skylander Reignited trilogy, which, you know, we keep saying how great that is. That's another great trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a fun thing to do, too, I'm sure. Story in here is that Uka Uka is defeated and he discovers rifts in time and space that give him access to the multiverse. So there you go. We're back to the multiverse. And he intends to take over all the dimensions with his rift generator. And again, recruits Dr. Engine and someone named Nitrous Brio. Tawna is a new character. She's Crash's former girlfriend, and she has her own moveset. She has like a grappling hook or like a whip kind of thing, I think it is. And there's also other playable characters like Dingo Dial, and that later in the game you play as Cortex. I don't think I've gotten that far though, because this game is pretty freaking hard.
Tawna, I mean, not quite a new character. She was in the first one.
Oh, was she the one with the Ridge Racer suits?
Maybe.
I never connected that.
Her head is the one you collect. She doesn't have the ponytail. She has the hair on the sides and everything.
She looks so different. Okay, I didn't even realize that until now.
Yeah, she was in the first one. And then Nitrous Brio is N Brio, which is sort of a play on M.
Yeah, it's a
Brio.
pun, yeah.
But he was the one in 2 where like Cortex wants you to get the crystals. Brio wants you to get the gems.
Oh, okay.
He's the other talking head.
I didn't realize there was the two talking heads.
Yeah.
We're saying talking heads. That's pretty funny.
But also another great voice actor. I don't know who did Brio, but it was just so fun when you got a message from either one guy.
That's pretty hilarious. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. So Tawna is newly playable, I guess I should say, more than anything else. Yeah. Some development notes here. Toys for Bob thought the project could have been a reboot, but they decided to create a sequel after profiling players after they played the Insane trilogy. So the studio head, Paul Yan, said, "So with all these pieces together, we aligned and held hands to say what Crash 2020 is going to be is a sequel to the original trilogy, and it's going to be positioned primarily for the core Crash audience. Now, this is the first major guardrail statement. It's a big stick in the sand for us, and it really crisped up when we started to call this project Crash 4. This is created in Unreal Engine 4, so you know that this game looks really amazing because, again, they're not confined to like a remake or remaster. This is all their own. They have the free reign to do whatever they want with this game, and it shows. They include these quantum mask gimmicks, which are basically sort of like these different abilities that Crash has. They really wanted to add these to create something fresh, which I think they were successful with.
They did a good job.
Yeah. They prototyped around 30 different ideas for these masks, and they ended up on sort of a core of 4. There's one where you slow time around you, which is kind of cool. Like you see Crash jumping over all these enemies in slow-mo. There's one that's called Density, where it's like, that's one where you slow your movement to walk through explosions. There's a phase shift one and gravity flip, which I think if I recall, it's one where it's like you're literally going upside down or like you're walking on the ceiling or something like that.
Like Metal Storm?
Yeah, like Metal Storm and Mega Man 5, I think it is, right? Yeah, where you can switch what plane you're on, in a sense.
The phase shifting is, I think I've already gotten to that one where it's like some boxes are ghosted and some are solid and then they switch out.
Yeah, and same thing with platforms where you're alternating as you're jumping, which is brutally, hilariously difficult, but so good. So they really wanted to focus on creating gameplay that was tense with precise execution, with a smoother difficulty curve compared to the earlier games, which I agree. Well, I would say it's smoother, but it's still brutally difficult.
This is how I know it's not a curve. Is like I did the first 2 levels, and you get a gem if you die 3 times or less. The very next one in the first world, it's like a Western world, I died 10 times. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to do that. Like the first couple levels, I died once or twice, and I got the gem. After that, I was like, uh-oh.
So I will say that this game obviously did away with lives. Like you can't really, it's not like you have a limited amount. Here it's really based, they've expanded the game in such a way that each level you have to replay multiple times because you want to get all the boxes or you want to collect enough Wampa fruit to get more gems because you get a certain amount. I think you get up to 3 depending on how many Wampa fruit you collect throughout the level.
20%, 40, 80, and the full amount.
Yeah, so it's like 3 or 4 gems you get just for that. There's a gem for getting all the boxes. I think you get a one of the glowing sticks or something like that for being the level. And basically, like, to 100% this game is brutal. But at the same time, I really appreciate it because that goes back to them giving you basically the best value for your dollar here.
I feel like it's actually, even though there's more stuff to get, it's easier to get than some of the previous games.
Yeah, well, I'm glad
because you're just sort of doing it along the way.
You are, and plus it's a little bit easier to backtrack. And thankfully, because there's some areas, some levels that have like hundreds of boxes. Which I know you haven't gotten there yet, but it's really crazy. And on top of that, I believe you also get a gem for, like you said, have it hitting or dying like a limited amount of times. So really, it's like you're more than likely going to go through at least once to beat the level. Go through to collect as much Wampa fruit to get a gem there or a couple of gems there. Go through to make sure you die the least.
Yeah.
And then probably go through for a time trial. So you're probably playing these levels 4 to 5 times depending on how much you want to complete the game. And there's a lot of levels here. I wish I had gotten to know on that, but there's probably like, I don't know, 30, 40 levels in this game. And they're all different themed because, again, they really rely on the multiverse gimmick. So it's like you might be in the 50s at one point, and one point you might be like at a Mardi Gras kind of thing. So they really, really went above and beyond to make sure there's a lot of variety in this game. And you could tell, like, they said that they're influenced by Crash 2, where they tried to find a balance between new features and keeping the familiar platforming, or core platforming, familiar for itself. And I think they nailed it. Like, this game, from a review standpoint, let's see, PS4 got an 85 out of 100, Xbox One 83. And all the other ports got from 80 to 86. So like PS5 and Series X got 86 because it just looks better. I'm sure they tweaked a few things with the patches and whatnot. Run smoother.
It's kind of jarring if you play this one and then go back into any of the ones in the trilogy.
Oh, for sure. It's literally walking back in time
because it is slower, like the previous reviews said. But also, like, you lose out on a double jump that 4 has, and my favorite addition, the little yellow circle underneath your body.
I wanted to talk about that because that is their way of sort of mitigating the issue that the original games had, where it's like sometimes it was hard to judge distances when you're jumping forward or to the side.
Yep.
And that little circle they put under a shadow is just enough where it's not intrusive, but you see it, just know like, okay, well, I'm going to land this.
Yes. Yeah, that's all I could have asked for. Like, why couldn't they now retroactively put it into the other ones?
Just patch it for God's sake. Yeah, it'd be really, that's all you really need for that. But yeah, that's one little quality of life feature that they add in this game that I think really makes a huge difference because it gets, like I said, this is really hard. I love platformers to death, and even for me, I'm like, damn, like, there's times where I'm like, how do I get through this? Because you have to be really precise, and you're also hitting R2 or the right trigger to switch the mask power while you're using it in some instances. Like I mentioned, there's somewhere using the phase mask where it's like you're on the platform and then you have to hop, and in the middle of your hop, hit R2 so the next platform appears and alternate, which again is great because it adds that little precision. And also if you're speedrunning it, you have to really get used to that too.
Some of them even sort of turn it into a puzzle where, like, if you want to get all of the boxes, you have to hit a box, bounce up, and then make sure you click the thing so that the next box pops up. But that could take away some boxes. And you're like, if you hit this next one and then you want to go for the next ones, you might not have a way to save yourself. Like, you have to do it in a certain order, and you have to figure that order out before you make your jump.
Yeah, so it adds that level of sort of strategy in a sense to it, where it's not like just blindly platforming and cutting through. It's like you might have to think a little bit of how you're going to approach this next gap.
Yeah.
The bosses are pretty hard too. Like there's one of the earlier bosses, like this giant stage battle where it's like someone's like, playing heavy music, and like you kind of have to go towards the stage, run at them, and you have like these chainsaws and things coming at you, and you have to bop them. The boss fights are really inventive in here. All the characters you do play as, I play as Dingodile and Tawna, and they both feel really different from each other. Like Tawna, like I said, she has sort of like a grappling hook, and her levels kind of emphasize that and swinging.
Nice.
Dingodile's a little bit heavier. I think it's like a blunderbuss kind of shotgun thing. So they really capitalize on the writing this game. I'm glad you finally got to play it because I bought this when it came out. I was looking forward to it, and I replayed it again on PS5, and it just looks so good because they increased the frame rate, they increased the graphical resolution. So this is just like another top tier platform game, even though it's just freaking hard.
It's funny. I always wanted to play this one, but after I got the other 3 done, and I'm like, no, I might not get those other 3 ever done.
They're big games,
but and for as much as we've talked about being on sale and everything, the greatest part is that everything we've talked about today, the the remasters and 4 and CTR are on Game Pass.
That's right. Yeah, because of the Activision buyout, they put them on Game Pass probably in the last year or two. I'm going to say,
yeah,
pretty recently. Yeah, so you can play all these on Xbox. I don't think PS Plus has them. I can't remember if they might have had them. I think they took them off at some point because I remember there's Insane or something like that. By the way, Game Pass is the way to go if you just want to like try them out.
Yeah,
and of course, like I said, they're always on sale and worthwhile. Some of the reviews, I just want to point out, like some of the comments they made, like. There was one that I saw from Destructoid that said that they sincerely hope Activision trusts Toys for Bob and Vicarious Visions with the keys to the Crash Kingdom from here on out.
Yeah.
They gave it a 9 out of 10. And then some of the other reviews I was just kind of touching through, they said that their expectations were blown away considering how mediocre the series had been before the remaster in 4. So really, if you haven't got anything from this episode we've been talking about, it's really just the Insane Trilogy and Crash 4 are the ultimate return to form for this series.
Yeah, get all of the numbered entries.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Like as
and Eraser.
Yeah, definitely get those, and you'll be set for a Crash life. Because I'm sure the other ones have their merits, the ones that were like in the 360 PS2 era. But if you want Crash at its best and at its core, you really want the Insane Trilogy, Crash 4, and CTR. So I don't know. I had a great time revisiting this game. Deucy, do you have any final thoughts on 4 before we...
4 is like the culmination of everything I wanted a Crash game to be. Mm-hmm. And I haven't even played that far into it. Like I said, I beat the first little intro island and then maybe the first level of the phase-shifting Western one. But everything I saw so far makes me want to really go through it and just... Now I'm jealous that the original 3 don't have some of the improvements. But I do, like I said, I really want to finish the first one, and I'm so close to the end, I feel like, and then maybe get a little further into 2 and 3 and really try out 4 some more.
Yeah, you might have to spread your love around because, these games are pretty beefy, like I mentioned. Like, they're all, I don't think I've ever beaten part 2. I've beaten 1, 3. I've, gone through most of 4. I don't know how far I'm on there. It's just... It gets hard. That's all it is. But
yeah.
I should see if there's a difficulty option too there because I'm usually just a stubborn prick and won't go it down. Because I'm like, I've beaten harder platformers before. I can do this. We're trying to get through Mega Man X hard right now.
Yeah.
We can do this. But yeah, so Deucy, I'm really glad we get to revisit the series because I really got to rediscover how much I love the series, both from a nostalgia standpoint and just currently, like, they're just really great platformers to play nowadays.
Yeah. I would put... on a Mount Rushmore of mascots, I would have Crash up there with Mario, Sonic, and maybe Master Chief for Xbox. But like Crash should be a face up there.
I agree. I don't know. The thing is, like, it's hard for me to get a general idea on what the consensus on Crash is because I know like he's obviously sold a ton throughout the lifetime of the series. But I don't know. I always feel like when I look into this, like, it just doesn't seem like his games get as much love as others. I don't know.
I feel like he's on the same path as Sonic, where Sonic had great ones to start out with, a weird mix in the middle, and even sort of trending downward.
Yeah, a lot of peaks and valleys, a lot of valleys.
And then you get some type of crazy remaster like Sonic Mania or Insane Trilogy, and boom, he's back.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just where it's one of those things where he had to go away for a little bit, step away from mediocrity, and then finally Toys for Bob brought him back. And
what you need are the people who grew up with him are now in positions of power.
That's absolutely what it is. When you have a developer who's focused to say, like, we want to capture what made the originals great, but make a brand new sequel, this is the result of it. And I think it's one of the best examples of a sequel that's been, between Crash 4 and like Crash 3 was at almost 20 years, something like that. Not considering the middle games.
This really fits in with modern movie making, where a lot of the sequels are just timeline wise, they are the same amount of time that's passed. And I don't think a reboot would have worked as well as this sequel. I
agree. Like, I'm glad that they went with the sequel route because this game shines in a lot of ways. So I don't know if I'm sure I'll probably replay it or play through it or finish it at some point. But yeah, it's always great when you get that itch. Like, you just play a game like this, and you're like, all right, well, I kind of feel like I'm hooked, and I want to finish this at some point.
It's also easy to pick up and play. I'll just do a level before or after dinner or something like that.
That's also fair, yeah, because these levels are a handful of minutes long at best, and at worst, you're like, okay, well, I died 15 times. I'll move on to some other one.
The one thing I don't quite like is the speed running in 4. Because there's just no checkpoints, and those levels are long as hell.
Yeah, they are. So that's what I mean is, like, this game, that's why I feel like they really made it for like the hardcore of hardcore Crash Bandicoot fans, because there are some really, really hard challenges. Even for me, I'm like, wow, like, you really have to commit a lot of time to learn this, and you also have to know levels in and out.
Yeah.
Which is not easy to do, because a lot of these levels, we're used to sort of the narrow corridors, and they're not as open in the earlier PS1 games. And these are much more expansive in a lot of ways. There's a lot of hidden pathways and a lot of ways to go through. So it's just a massively different game at a different scale. But again, it's 100% worth the money. If you love 3D platforming in any sense, I think you could do no wrong with Crash 4.
Yep.
All right, Deucy. Well, I think we've made it to the finish line at this point. Another beefy episode. But for our friends listening, if there's anything you want to tell us about the Crash games or Spyro or any platforming love, please reach out to us by email at LegionGamingPod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcasts and sometimes on Blue Sky at LegionGamingPod.bsky.social. Deucy, any final words for our friends who are going to go back in time?
Whoa!